Welcome back to more FPL content. This will be an assistant manager guide and also talking about my chip strategy with the current, well, just news. And what happened today was kind of extraordinary. We didn't expect that many sort of permutations being built in so early on, but I'm going to discuss everything you need to know for Double Gameweek 24, 25 and beyond. I will get to your questions fairly shortly, but that will be more of a thing, let's say in the deadline stream tomorrow, where it's very interactive. I answer as many questions as possible. But with this, I want to explain some things. I've got a few slides ready to discuss all the ins and outs of possible blanks and doubles later in the season, and also the best times to use the chips at this moment in time. Some of you might have every single chip available. Some of you might have used one or two already, maybe even, well, let's say 3 or 4 of them. But there's going to be different circumstances. Ultimately, it is team dependent, but I do think the announcements today kind of push people towards similar strategies, and I think the free hit looks very appealing in one of 2 game weeks, for example. But What you can see on screen is my current squad. I haven't made any single transfers, and I will discuss my current plans later on because I'm very set on using the assistant manager chip. I think it's a great opportunity with back-to-back double game weeks, and we do have a confirmed one, of course, for Double Game Week 25. It's just a matter of which teams will double, and that all depends on which clubs reach the Carabao Cup final. But let's welcome some people first before I go into the slides and go into a lot of information. So feel free to pause at any time, rewind, or maybe you can watch it back after the stream is finished. Easy99 says early double gaming stream. Yes, and there will be a deadline stream tomorrow, so don't worry about that. And we're going to get a lot of similar questions perhaps, but with that one, we'll also talk about transfers and normal FPL stuff. Yeah, Batman says, thought this was the deadline stream for a moment. We'll activate the Assman in Double Game Week 25, Emery, Game Week 26, Areola, Game Week 27, sorry, Iraola, Game Week 27, Amrim or Maresca. Yeah, I think that's a solid plan. I do suggest using it now, though, even those that were quite set on triple captaining Salah, and I was very bullish on that throughout the entire week. I'd consider cancelling it because you can cancel the bench boost and the triple captainships, and I'd recommend using the assistant manager from the get-go. Double Game Week 24, sell Visser to Indai. Double Game Week 25, sell Wood to Watkins. I like that Watkins pun. I think Liverpool will reach the final, so that would mean both Aston Villa and Liverpool would double in Game Week 25. So I think Isak to Watkins will be a very popular move. I don't recommend selling Visser to Ndai. I'll be honest, if I had a Brentford slot available, I'd consider buying Ndai. Sorry, I'd consider buying Visser for Gakpo, and that would allow me to go for Arne slot as my assistant manager, but I've already got Vali Marson, Vandenberg, and Mbumo. Lots of permutations, that's a great way of summing it up by just my opinion. Mr. Iceman says, another hectic stream after Wednesday shenanigans. Admire the grind. Thank you. Yeah, this weekend has been incredible. Well, this entire week, should I say. In UCL Fantasy, one of the most chaotic deadline streams you'll ever see. But now in FPL, you could argue this has blown the entire season wide open. Triple Captain 25 for me. Well, we'll talk about this very soon. If you use the assistant manager today, or for Game Week 24, you can't use the triple captaincy in Game Week 25 or 26 because the Assman, as people like to call it, is active for 3 game weeks. I'll talk about all the ins and outs very soon, so be very mindful of that when you are locking in your moves and stuff like that. Good to see you, Jellyfish. For some reason, I read happy birthday. I've got a few friends who sometimes do that as trolling, but good to see you and hopefully having a great Friday too. Bournemouth form good. Yes, it is very good. I do think their unbeaten streak will come to an end fairly soon. I did show my predictions in my Transfers podcast a couple of days ago. There are a few alterations to those predictions, and I'll show them in the deadline stream tomorrow, but maybe I'll go into that graphic today as well. Surely everyone has Kluivert in their team too, right? Not necessarily, and in my case, I've got Semenyo. It makes me less keen to go for Justin Kluivert, although you could argue that's flawed logic, and ultimately, he's one of the best budget midfielders in the game right now. Morgan Rogers will be another one who's got 2 really good fixtures in general against Wolves and Ipswich Town, and Villa could double next week, albeit one of those fixtures would be Liverpool. Kluivert Game Week 25, I want to transfer my plans. Kirkes I have already. Yeah, I think 2 or 3 Bournemouth players is definitely viable long term. I think 2 might be the sweet spot, but let's go into, we'll just whiz through all the comments here and welcome people. But like I said, what I want to do in this stream is delve into the ins and outs of the chips, breaking it down for people who might be new to the game, but also some that might have forgotten. And with the assistant manager, even those experienced FPL managers will have a few questions maybe, and this video will cover all of them. Such fun, Dylan says, let's talk Vinyl. You could say that, yeah. IA7 Mad says, I would sell Van Dijk to bring in Slot. I'd recommend it. I'm actually looking at selling Gakpo myself, who doesn't have a great away record anyway, which I highlighted in the team selection podcast earlier today. Yeah, I think I'd be very on board with that. I do like Van Dijk though. He's actually my top 10 captaincy options for Double Game Week 24. But Arne Slot, you know, you're basically covering the team, Liverpool, the best team in the league, and they have 4 fixtures, possibly, in the next 2 game weeks, because I think they will reach the Carabao Cup final, despite that 1-0 deficit in the first leg against Tottenham Hotspur. Welcome, Beardy, good to see you. Free hit 34 for me. That is one of the game weeks I've recommended, which you'll see very soon. The other one is Game Week 29, but we'll go into that fairly shortly. I wouldn't recommend Wildcard this week, Sahil, in a lot of scenarios, but I guess I can understand why you're saying that, but I think the chip you should prioritize is the assistant manager. That is the most important. Thank you, Ahmed, for the super chat. Very generous of you. let's get into your question, and let me know, by the way, if there's any technical difficulties, because I am using basically a new computer and doing some weird stuff to get everything going on. Pause. Ahmed says, such a crazy timing with this. 2 free transfers already done early, but as a Diaz owner, and the news that Jota and Darwin are back in training, I think hitting him out for slot could be the move. No money for Moyes anyway. That's a great point. That is true. Multiple Liverpool players are back in the setup. That includes Joe Gomez and, of course, Diogo Jota, as you rightfully mentioned. I'll talk more about these sort of, how do I say this, injury updates and suspensions and all of that in tomorrow's stream. What I want to focus today, of course, is with the assistant manager. But as you rightfully mentioned, I think Arne Slot and David Moyes are great options to use it. And the benefit of going for Arne Slot is the fact that you also will likely have a double in Gameweek 25, so you don't need to make a transfer with your manager. Now, some of you might be asking, how does it work? You know, if you pick a manager, does that cost a transfer and all of that? That will be answered in this stream. Thanks for helping cope emotionally with this. Well, I'm glad to hear it. A lot of people have called me a FPL therapist. That maybe should be my name. But no, I do appreciate it, and I'm glad it's helping somebody out. I'm probably, let's say, less confident or assured about my own setup and plans. But you know what? I have to say, there are 2 sets of moves that I'm looking at for a -4 here, and I'm fairly happy with it. Drop a like on this video, everyone. Let's support our content creators. Thank you very much, chappers. Very nice of you, and hopefully you do well in Gameweek 24. Hi, Dylan. What if Gakpo outscores Slot? Possible, but unlikely. Is it necessary to play the chip when there is no bonus? Well, Mohit, the thing is, like I just mentioned a few seconds ago, Liverpool will likely double in Gameweek 25 as well, and it all depends on your predictions, of course. Maybe Tottenham do the unthinkable and get a decent result at Anfield and progress to the Carabao Cup final. You never know in football, but the likely scenario is Liverpool going through. So getting 4 fixtures in just 2 game weeks from your assistant manager, covering the best team in the league, and you've got Wolves at home as one of those games, albeit the other 3 are away, but I still think Liverpool are favourites in every single one of them. So I get what you're saying about no table bonus, and I'm not saying you have to go for Arne Slot. You could go for David Moyes instead, by the way, but I think this is the best time to use it because you've got back-to-back double game weeks, and let's say, for example, with either Arne Slot or David Moyes, let's say Liverpool don't reach the Carabao Cup final, you can still make a managerial change and go for a team that doubles in Gameweek 25. But before I go into your questions again, because there's a lot of good discussions and points being raised, let me go to the presentation I've kind of built. I actually did a lot of slides last night, and I was going to record a video today about the chip strategy and assistant manager, but then that bombshell dropped out. So I'm very happy I didn't record that. Otherwise, I would have been punching something, maybe myself or something. But let's go to the assistant manager chip slides here, and hopefully we can get this to work. So let me just go back here. So in Double Gameweek 24, very simple. We all know this. Liverpool and Everton are doubling. They've got 2 fixtures this week. So Liverpool face Bournemouth away and Everton away, whilst Everton face Leicester and Liverpool at home. Now in Double Gameweek 25, and hopefully there are no typos, I have triple checked stuff, but we'll talk about that later. So with Double Gameweek 25, the 4 teams who blank in Gameweek 29, because the 2 Carabao Cup finalists and their respective opponents, they will blank. Those fixtures are brought forward to Gameweek 25, forming a double gameweek. However, if Newcastle reach the Carabao Cup final, which is very likely, they would actually face Crystal Palace, probably in Gameweek 33. There is the possibility of Gameweek 36, by the way, and that's why I have amended certain slides, and instead of just saying double Gameweek 33, I've put /36, because there is the possibility that it could move into that one instead. But it does look like Gameweek 36 might be less likely with double gameweeks now, as I'll talk about very soon. But with that provisional double Gameweek 33 or 36, we've got 6 to 8 teams that are projected to blank in blank Gameweek 34, and they will double in Gameweek 33 or 36. There is actually the possibility that we get up to 10 teams doubling in double Gameweek 33. So keep that in mind, and Newcastle and Crystal Palace could be 2 of them. Next up is blank Gameweek 29. So this is the blank Gameweek section. So the Carabao Cup finalists, as well as their scheduled Gameweek 29 opponents, will blank, which I mentioned just a few minutes ago. These fixtures will eventually be played in Gameweek 25, which is why we've got that double Gameweek. Liverpool, Aston Villa, Newcastle and Crystal Palace are the teams that will likely blank in Gameweek 29. Arsenal, Chelsea, Fulham and Tottenham would be the alternatives, and I'll show you all the possible double Gameweek 25 fixtures, and even for Newcastle later in the season. That will be coming up shortly. As for blank Gameweek 34, teams that reach the FA Cup semi-final will blank in Gameweek 34 due to a clash in the schedule. As a result, these teams will double in either Gameweek 33 or 36. So that is pretty much the breakdown of the blank game weeks. And here is obviously the big news that we got today. So let's break it down because it might be a bit confusing, especially with the 3 different scenarios for Double Gameweek 25. So if Liverpool reach the Carabao Cup final, Liverpool and Aston Villa will double in Gameweek 25 and blank in Gameweek 29. So the Double Gameweek fixtures for 25, including Aston Villa and Liverpool, would be Liverpool hosting Wolves and then having a trip to Aston Villa, whilst Villa will have Ipswich Town and Liverpool at home. If Arsenal reach the Carabao Cup final, they're 2-0 down at the moment to Newcastle, of course, and have to go to St James's Park. Arsenal and Chelsea will double in Gameweek 25 and blank in Gameweek 29, and the fixtures would be Arsenal against Leicester City away and Chelsea at home, whilst Chelsea have Brighton and Arsenal away, so that's where things get very interesting. And one thing I'd recommend is not selling any players from Liverpool, Aston Villa, Arsenal, Chelsea, Fulham, or Tottenham Hotspur. You want to keep these assets because there is the possibility of that double in Gameweek 25, of course. So now, on to Tottenham Hotspur. If they reach the Carabao Cup final, they've got that 1-0 lead against Liverpool. They now go to Anfield. Spurs and Fulham will double in Gameweek 25 and also blank in Gameweek 29. So Spurs would face Man United at home and Fulham away if they reach that final, and Fulham would face Nottingham Forest and Spurs at home. Now, with the other possibility, if Newcastle reached the Carabao Cup final, Newcastle and Crystal Palace would blank in Gameweek 29. They would likely double in Gameweek 33 because neither team is in Europe, but maybe they double in Gameweek 36. I'm not too sure about the ins and outs of that. I think the most likely scenario is both teams would double in Gameweek 33 instead. So that would be the most likely scenario. Let's now move on to other things here, which is talk about the chips. I know some of you might be very well equipped with, how all of these chips work, especially the triple captain, bench boost, wildcard and free hit, but I'll briefly discuss them. The main topic, of course, of this video is the assistant manager, which is the most powerful chip in my opinion. The wildcard would be second. You could argue one is more powerful than the other, but they definitely are clear of the rest. So with the triple captaincy, your captain's points are tripled instead of doubled. For example, if Salah scores 15 points as a baseline score, he would earn 30 points as your captain. But with the triple captaincy enabled, you would get 45 points overall. You can only use it once per season, and it only lasts for 1 game week. Just like the bench boost, it is reversible and can be cancelled at any point before the deadline. If your triple captain doesn't feature in a game week, your vice captain will have the points tripled instead. So that's very important as well. There might be a few details here that you might be surprised about. So similar to most chips, the ideal time to play the triple captain is during a double game week when a team has 2 games within a match day, like Liverpool and Everton now, of course, and Salah would have been the standout triple captain, I think, for the rest of the season until the bombshell released earlier today. So there are exceptions to this. Sorry, I can't speak sometimes. So Erling Haaland back in Game Week 2. I did this myself. He got a hat-trick against Ipswich Town and got 17 points. So you can make it work in a single game week, but just like any booster or chip, I think a double game week is always more enticing. So if you still got the triple captaincy, using it in Game Week 24, 25 or 33/36 is still ideal, but I'm less keen on using it in 24 now. So my recommendation will be using it later in the season after the recent announcement for Double Gameweek 25. I would prioritize the assistant manager chip over the triple captain in Double Gameweek 24 and 25. So some of you might be asking, why can't I triple captain Salah now and use the assistant manager chip in 25? That is a possibility for you that you could consider. But if you did it the other way around and use the Assman in 24, you can't use the triple captaincy on Salah in Gameweek 25 because once the assistant manager is active, that's a free game week period where you can't use any other chips, and that'll be highlighted later on when I discuss all the ins and outs of assistant manager. So the next booster we're going to talk about is the bench boost. So playing the bench boost means the points scored from your bench players are included in your overall game week score. It can only be played once during a season and is only active for 1 game week. Most FPL managers aim to use this chip during a double with the potential to have a full 15-man squad with 2 fixtures within the same match day. You may avoid a team selection headache for a particular game week with the bench boost. Make sure to leave your preferred captain and vice in your starting 11. The rest doesn't matter. You can bench anybody, but you can't captain a player on your bench. That's the only thing you should bear in mind with this particular booster. So the chip can be cancelled at any point before the deadline. A popular combination over the years has been the wildcard and the bench boost. Based on the fixture schedule this season, I think Game Week 33 or 36 seems like the best time to use this chip. Whichever double game week is bigger, that will be the preference, of course. It can still work in a single game week, but there are a lot of factors that might come into play, such as suspensions, rotation, injuries, etc. And similar to the triple captaincy, the aim is to kind of get 15 plus points. Anything else is a bonus. Even 10, I think with the triple captaincy especially, that's okay. With a bench boost, it might be slightly disappointing, but ultimately, these two chips are cancelable, they're reversible, and the least powerful in the grand scheme of things. But let's now talk about the free hit, which was mentioned in this chat already. The free hit allows FPL managers to make unlimited changes to their team without points hits for one game week only. If you play UCL Fantasy, it's very similar to that. The only difference being with the Limitless, you've got no budget restrictions. You do with a free hit though, unfortunately. All the players you own before activating the free hit will return to your squad in the following match day. So if you activate the free hit for Blank Gameweek 29, your team will revert back to how it was before you made those transfers in Game Week 30. And once you play the free hit and you confirm the transfers, you cannot cancel it, just like the wildcard. And unlike that chip, which can be used twice per season, you only get one free hit. The same goes for the bench boost and all the other chips in this game, like the assistant manager and triple captain. So let's now go to the next section, which is still talking about the free hit. The most popular time to use this is in a blank or double game week. So if you're using a blank, you're going to be more defensive and trying to get to 11 players in a game week where a lot of FPL managers will struggle to get numbers out. But you can also be aggressive and really go for the kill and use it in a double game week. I don't think either approach is actually wrong, really. And I think in the last couple of seasons, you could argue using it in a double has been more profitable. But I think this season, the best times to use it would probably be in Blank Gameweek 29 or 34. And if you want to still be aggressive, Gameweek 25 could be a consideration, but you can't do that if you use the assistant manager chip in Gameweek 24 or 25. You definitely can't use two chips at the same time in the exact same game week. And as I mentioned before, with the Yasman, that is a very unique chip in itself because it lasts for 3 game weeks overall. So that is the breakdown on the free hit. Next up will be the wild card, and then, of course, the eagerly anticipated assistant manager chip. Smash the like button of this video if you enjoy the content and subscribe to the channel. Hopefully this is helping somebody out there. And if you've got any other questions, leave them towards the end of this segment and I'll try to get for as many as possible. And I can still cover even more in tomorrow's deadline stream where I'll be even more interactive, of course. So with the wildcard, before the assistant manager chip came along, I think there was no doubt in anyone's mind that the wildcard was the most powerful chip by far. It allows you to make unlimited changes to your squad and they're permanent changes, unlike the free hit, so they last more than 1 game week. Without the wildcard, you are limited to 3 transfers and any additional moves would incur a -4 hit. And if you take multiple hits and then wildcard, it wipes out any hits you have taken. The same goes for the free hit, of course. Once you activate the chip and confirm some moves, you can't cancel it. And transfers no longer reset this season after you activate the wildcard. If you have 4 free transfers, you'll keep all 4 of them for the following game week after your wildcard is played. So hopefully that's all clear, and that has been made, I think, abundantly crystal across all my FPL videos this season. A tried and tested strategy is using the second wildcard towards the end of the campaign, and I think that is still relevant this season. It can help you navigate blank and double game week seamlessly or allow you to dead-end your team. One popular approach in this campaign will be using the wildcard around game week 30, immediately after blank game week 29, but you could even make the case of using it around game week 27 or 28 because you're free hitting in game week 29 anyway, for some of you watching. I'm aiming to use the wildcard after blank game week 29. That is my current plan, but it's not set in stone. That gives me the option to navigate the blank without the free hit because I may use it in game week 34 instead, the free hit that is. So ultimately, the best time to use the wildcard is team dependent. How many free transfers do you have? What's your budget? Are you going to use the wildcard in conjunction with the bench boost? There are so many different variables, so I can't really say there is one specific game week that stands out, but I think a lot of people will be aiming to use it around game week 30 or 31. But now, this is where things get very interesting. The assistant manager chip, and I haven't made a video about this specifically. Like I said, I wanted to do it all week and I had some slides ready last night, but now is the time to discuss this in detail. So this chip is all about the chosen team's performance. If your manager gets sent off, sacked, or leaves the club, that doesn't affect or impact your FPL points. All Premier League coaches cost between 0.5 million and 1.5 million. There will be no price changes this season. This chip doesn't replace a player though. You need money in the bank to add this manager to your team. And once it's activated, the assistant manager will last 3 game weeks and you cannot use any other chips. You get your money back to invest in your 50-man squad after the 3 game weeks have concluded. So if you've got any questions about that, let me know in the live chat and we can break that down in detail and also go back to these slides with the assistant manager because it can be a bit complicated, especially for new FPL players. So you can't captain this assistant manager. It is irreversible once you confirm your manager and make the transfer, and it doesn't use an actual free transfer here, which it says in the next bullet point. So although your first selection won't use up any free transfers, subsequent changes will. For example, if now during this stream I decide, you know what, I want Arne Slot, I'm going to bring him in, I'm selling Gakpo, I confirm the transfer, I've activated the chip, Arne Slot is in my team. If I decide before the deadline, you know what, I want David Moyes and chase the table bonus, which I'll get onto very shortly, that would incur a transfer. And if you've already exceeded your limit, that will incur a -4 hit. So hopefully that makes sense. Your original selection when you activate the chip doesn't use a free transfer, but you need the budget available to bring him in. But any subsequent changes will incur a hit or possibly a free transfer used if you got them available. So 3 players per team extends to the assistant manager. If you've got Trent, Salah and Gakpo, you can't get Arne Slot. You need to replace one of those Liverpool players first before bringing in the Dutch manager. If your chosen coach faces a club ranked at least 5 places higher in the Premier League table, you get extra points for a win or draw. Now, if the manager qualifies for the table bonus at the start of the game week, they remain eligible until the very end of that particular game week. So hopefully that's also very clear. Next up is actually the point system. So a win gives your chosen manager 6 points. A draw is 3 points, none for a loss, of course. And for each goal scored, your manager gives you 1 point. A clean sheet means 2 points, and table bonus with a win means 10 extra points on top of the 6 already that you get for getting a victory. So if you pick David Moyes and they beat Liverpool in Double Gameweek 24, you don't just get 6 points, you get 16 points overall. And if you get a draw, you still get 6 points. So essentially, the table bonus means a team lower down in the league can match one of the, let's say, top dogs who get a victory. So it's absolutely insane the ceiling you can get from this chip by going for the underdog and this sort of high risk, high reward approach. That's why David Moyes, the man on the thumbnail, is going to be very popular in Double Gameweek 24. And I don't blame you. You can also make that switch to Gameweek 25, maybe Iraola, or you go for Unai Emery, for example. I think Emery would be the preference at the moment. But let's actually show you some examples of times to use the assistant manager chip and on which managers. So for Gameweek 24, it makes sense. Arne Slot and David Moyes are the 2 standouts, and I think this is the best time to use the chip. There are going to be other opportunities, but to have back-to-back double game weeks, I mean, you're probably not going to get that for the rest of the season. Now, I did hear at some stage in the FPL community that there is the possibility of a blank Gameweek 37, but it's unlikely, and I don't know all the ins and outs about that, so it's just something to bear in mind, but I'll talk more about it once we have something more concrete. But Arne Slot or David Moyes this week, I did talk about this in my Transtips podcast that I have a slight preference for Arne Slot this week, as I think with David Moyes, he could get a result against Liverpool, and in fact, I predicted 1-1 the other day, but I also don't see many table bonus or just a massive ceiling against Crystal Palace and Man United, but that Leicester fixture is good. You've got a double game week, and now, with the doubles in 25, of course, you can switch David Moyes to Marco Silva and Postecoglou. It all depends on which teams ultimately double in Game Week 25, which I highlighted earlier. Let me know in the live chat, and I'll probably put a poll out very soon. Would you rather go for Arne Slot or David Moyes? And I do recognise that a lot of you, like myself, would have to sell a Liverpool player to go for Arne Slot in the end, but it's still a possibility for my setup. So now let's look at Game Week 25, and of course I did talk about this earlier in this stream. So if Spurs reach the Carabao Cup final, both Spurs and Fulham will double in Game Week 25, and these would be their fixtures. Fulham would have Newcastle away this week, Nottingham Forest at home, Tottenham at home, and then Crystal Palace at home. Marco Silva, though, costs 1.1 million, just like Ange Postecoglou, so they are high risk, high reward approaches. Tottenham Hotspur would face Brentford away this week, then Man United at home and Fulham away in Double Game Week 25 if Spurs reach that Carabao Cup final, and then Ipswich Town away from home. So not a bad shout there, either manager, but I'd be more keen on Ange Postecoglou Then we've got Arteta and Maresca if Arsenal reach the Carabao Cup final and make a comeback at St James's Park. So Arsenal face Man City this weekend at home, then it's Leicester away and possibly Chelsea at home in Game Week 25, and then West Ham at home in Game Week 26. As for Chelsea, it would be, I think that was wrong by the way, with the Brentford away fixture. Yes, it should be West Ham at home for Chelsea, so I do apologise for that. I might see if I can edit it right now, but I believe the rest is correct. Brighton away and Arsenal away in Game Week 25, and Aston Villa away in Game Week 26. But yeah, just recognise that for Chelsea, it's West Ham at home instead of Brentford away. So I had a feeling I had maybe something incorrect there, but there you go. Let's go to the next section, Game Week 33, where Crystal Palace and Newcastle will likely double if Newcastle reach the Carabao Cup final. So Crystal Palace would have Brighton at home, Man City away, and in Game Week 33, if that double lands in 33, it'd be Bournemouth at home and Newcastle away, whilst Newcastle would have Leicester away, Man United at home, and then Aston Villa away and Crystal Palace at home. I think Glasner looks very appealing there, despite some very tough fixtures, but he could get a lot of table bonus, which he did last season. And then we could also get we can get Amorim and Iraola. So United would face Man City at home, Newcastle away, and then for Game Week 33, should they double there, it'd be Wolves at home and Bournemouth away, whilst Bournemouth would have West Ham away, Fulham at home, Crystal Palace away, and Man United at home. Only a few left now, don't worry, we'll get to your questions very shortly and maybe discuss a few ins and outs of the assistant manager chip yet again. So for Game Week 36, and bear in mind this could be in Game Week 33 instead, we could have Spurs facing Crystal Palace away and Liverpool at home in Game Week 36, Aston Villa away and Brighton at home to conclude the season, whilst David Moyes and Everton would have Fulham away and Chelsea away, Southampton at home, and then Newcastle away, and that wraps things up there. But the last four managers we've got to talk about include Pep Guardiola and Enzo Maresca. So with City, they would face Southampton away and possibly Aston Villa at home in Game Week 36, Bournemouth at home, and then Fulham away as Man City's last game of the season, whilst Enzo Maresca would confront Newcastle away and Everton at home, Man United at home, and Nottingham Forest away. And the last two managers include Arne Slot and Unai Emery. So this is how it would look like. Liverpool hosting Arsenal in Game Week 36, and then Tottenham at home potentially, Brighton away and Crystal Palace at home, whilst Aston Villa have Bournemouth away, Man City away, Tottenham at home, and Man United away. But like I said, with these Game Week 36 fixtures, they could be pulled back to Game Week 33, and even in the case of Newcastle and Crystal Palace, with their provisional double there, it could be in Game Week 36, but I think Game Week 33 seems more likely. So that was a lot of information, of course. Like I said, feel free to pause at any point. I think the slides make it very easy to follow, and you should know everything you need to at this point. There are a lot of variables and things can change in a couple of weeks or months' time, but as things stand, that is pretty much a clear picture of how things will look like in terms of doubles and blanks, and also the assistant manager chip. So let's actually go back to those slides very briefly, and yeah, just let me know what you think. So hopefully you know all the ins and outs by now of this booster. I'm going to leave this on though, as it's going to be the table bonus and stuff like that, and go back to your questions. Let me know if things are running smoothly as well. Like I said, I am using new technology here and a new computer, so hopefully that is all running very, very well. I do realize that I've missed a lot of questions here, unfortunately, so I do apologize for that. But like I said, in the deadline stream tomorrow, I'll cover a lot more as well. Yeah, that is my current plan to activate the assistant manager chip, Beardy. That is what I'm looking at. Let's go back to my team and highlight your questions in more detail. So yeah, what's your plan now? I'm going to show you very soon, but I am looking to use the assistant manager chip. I'm quite bullish on it. It's just a question of, do I go for David Moyes or Arne Slot? Basuna says, hey Dylan, would you do Alisson to Pickford, Bruno to Mbumo to get Slot in for free? I think I would. I think Alisson and Bruno are absolutely fine, but I'd argue Pickford and Mbumo are better FPL assets in their position. And to get Arne Slot, yeah, I'm on board with that. Hope Liverpool and Arsenal go to the final. I have 2 Liverpool players and 1 Chelsea. Add 1 player for double, it's enough for me. Yeah, but it's very unlikely that Arsenal do. I think Liverpool will reach the final despite their 1-0 deficit, but yeah, we'll wait and see. I hope that's the final too, but let's wait and see. I mean, there's so many variables, of course. You never know in football. What they did this now, my head is fried. Yeah, I get that. Kian says, Alisson and Wood to Ndai and Pickford for a -4 to bring Slot in. I'd lean towards yes. I just think Arne Slot has such a high ceiling despite no table bonus compared to Alisson. If I get money for Moyes, already have triple Liverpool, should I use my assistant manager on Moyes? That's absolutely fine, and you can always switch Moyes to one of Marco Silva, Ange Postecoglou, or one of the other managers I discussed in the Double Gameweek 25 segment. But I also don't mind selling a Liverpool player like Gakpo and bringing in Arne Slot. That could also work fairly well. It just depends on how you want to use that assistant manager chip. Yeah, just so I can have an update graphic and make sure I correct the mistake I made. Let me just show you the image again, and let's see if I can bring it up. So let me just change the Maresca one for Double Gameweek 25. So it said Brentford away. That's Tottenham's fixture this week, not Chelsea's. So let me just change that. And yeah, just to make things clear, I don't want to spread any misinformation. So let's see if I can do that. Hopefully it doesn't cause any problems. Technology can be very funny to say the least. Let's see. So Double Gameweek 25, Arsenal, Chelsea, that would be the one, isn't it? There we go. And don't worry, I will go back to your questions very soon. That's not what I wanted to do, actually. Alright, just give me a few seconds and I will be back to planet Earth, you could say. But I do appreciate those that are tuning in. Of course, it was kind of late notice, this live stream, but it was always my plan to cover the assistant manager chip and also an update chip strategy guide. And I will talk about, obviously, the game weeks very soon about when I'm looking to use each chip. It was kind of mentioned in the slides already for most of those boosters. So let's see if I can get to game week 25. Kind of lost it here. Where is it? Ah, here we go. Okay. Save current slide. All right. So let's see if I can do that. All right, let's go back to the assistant manager graphics just for a second. All right, so this is the table bonus as covered before. Everything you need to know, all the point systems for the complicated AM chip, you could say. So Gameweek 25, Chelsea. Let's bring this in. And let's bring this here. So yeah, these should be the correct fixtures for what I discussed before. Obviously, I'm doing this live. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, Chelsea facing West Ham at home, and then possibly Brighton and Arsenal away in Gameweek 25, and then Aston Villa away in Gameweek 26. So that should be all sorted. And yeah, I'll leave that on for a little while longer. I think everything else was correct with the fixtures and prices and stuff like that. But if you notice any mistakes, let me know. I'd be happy to correct them, of course. But yeah, there was a lot of slides, a lot of information to get through. Georgie says, Konate out for Kirkes, Gordon out, Rodgers in, and get Slot. I do like Rodgers with those two appealing fixtures and a possible double in Gameweek 25, which I think will happen. I'm on board with that. No problems with that at all. Konate is a decent defender for Gameweek 24, but yeah, I think Kirkes' long-term investment helps you navigate so many blanks and doubles seamlessly. Bournemouth are on the up. They're unbeaten in such a long time. He's got attacking threat. And the most important thing about that is getting Arne Slot. So, yeah, I like that, mate. Happy Human says, should I start Ahmad or Rodgers? I'd rather start Rodgers this week. Joey Lowe says, take a -4 for Ndai for Gakpo and activate Asman for Slot Double Gameweek 24. Double Gameweek 25, waiting for Mateta. Sorry, Watkins for Mateta. Yeah. To be honest, I'm not trying to like just appease people and just make them comfortable and say, yeah, whatever you do, it's fine. I genuinely think these are good transfers. And I mean, look, I'm not a huge fan of Ndai. He's more of a Double Gameweek 24 punt. And if I had that Brentford slot available, for example, I'd recommend buying him in the long term rather than Ndai. But I still think it works very well. Palmer Double Gameweek 25, hope he has points. So yeah, just to make it clear, he's not officially going to double in 25. That's only if Arsenal reach the Carabao Cup final, which is a very big if because they're 2-0 down, going to St James's Park. It would be maybe a miraculous comeback, you could say, for the Gunners if they were to do it. FPL Kevy says, needed help with my team this week. The lads ain't pulling their weight. Got Arne by my side to see it through. Assistant manager, yeah, I like that a lot. I'm probably going to go in that direction myself. It's either Arne Slot or David Moyes for me, of course, in Gameweek 24. Then I'll reassess. But let me actually show you my transfer plans now. And let me know in the live chat as well what you prefer. So the first set of transfers I was looking at is getting David Moyes as my AM, assistant manager, getting Mikolenko for Veltman, and to fund these moves in general, particularly having David Moyes in the side, I would have to sell Chris Wood to Ndai. And with these transfers, for a -4 hit, I would have 3 Liverpool players in Trent, Salah, and Gakpo, and I'd have Mikolenko, Ndai, and David Moyes forming part of my Everton triple up. The alternative leaves me with one less doubler in Gameweek 24, but it also possibly prevents a transfer if Liverpool reach the Carabao Cup final, because Arne Slot would be in, and I think Liverpool will double in Gameweek 25. I think they will beat Spurs to reach that final, and it would mean Gakpo out for Ndai. I still buy Mikolenko for Veltman, but I keep Chris Wood for the time being, and maybe if Aston Villa double next week, I could buy Watkins for Alexander Isak. So yeah, this double today has pretty much opened the game wide open. I've had a few, hours to reflect on it, obviously, gather all the information and try to break it down for everybody watching. But yeah, it's just mad. And by the way, sorry, I'm still on this bloody screen. I'm an amateur, absolute amateur. So just to show you here with a visual. So like I mentioned before, David Moyes, Mikolenko, and Ndai coming in for just a -4 hit, because remember, your first manager doesn't actually use a transfer or even a hit. It's only if you decide to change it after you confirm your manager in the first place where it takes part of your transfers before the Gameweek 24 deadline. So yeah, this is one set of transfer plans, and the other one is to get Arne Slot instead of David Moyes, but it means selling Gakpo to free up that Liverpool spot. I'd still go for Ndai, but keep Chris Wood for now, and I'd still buy Mikolenko at the back. But let me know what you prefer, Arne Slot or David Moyes in my circumstance, and I might even put a poll out just for people in general, because there are so many different variables in terms of determining which manager you should pick. But I'm going to be very bullish on this. I think it's the best time to use that chip right now, and it's the most powerful booster in the game. I'm one of many that have 3 Liverpool players and 0 in the bank, says Andrew Barton. Don't like the -4 to remove Gakpo for Slot. I get that. Also, Eze now injured. Thinking triple captain, still move Eze out to Dango, giving me sufficient funds for Gameweek 25. That could also work really well. There's no one set way of playing FPL. I just think with the back-to-back doubles, it really gives you a high ceiling with the AM chip. You still got a high one in Gameweek 25 to be fair, but I'd argue it's even higher, and it justifies the -4 here, especially if you're backing Liverpool to beat Bournemouth and Everton. I personally think they'll get 4 points out of 6 at the very least. I don't see them losing a game against Bournemouth or Everton, but we'll see. The love well deserved, man. Honestly, my favourite out of all the content creators I follow. Thank you very much, Ahmed. And it's always good to see you in these UCL Fantasy and FPL streams. We had a chaotic one on Wednesday, and on Friday, just a few days later, we've got another one. And let's just see what happens tomorrow as well. I think that's going to be even more chaotic. Easy99 says, my chip strategy is Asman in 25, free hit in 29, wildcard 32, triple captain 33, bench boost in 33 or 36, 37 or 38. Fair enough, very solid plan. Of course, you probably know you can't use 2 chips at the same time, but you're talking about all the possibilities. I get that. If Gameweek 36 is the bigger double game week, I'd recommend using the bench boost in that game week in 36 and then triple captain in 33. But if it's the other way around, you might want to switch it and go triple captain in Gameweek 36 instead. As for Gameweek 37, that could be a blank, although it's probably unlikely. So just bear that in mind. I'm not sure about using a bench boost or a triple captain in a blank game week, but that's a very small possibility, I think. Thank you, Ahmed, as well. Charis says, I'm using my AM for Wolves 24, then Fulham in 25, then maybe Wolves in 26. Really chasing the table bonus. I get that. That could work fairly well. I'll be honest, though, if you are using the AM chip this week, I'd recommend going for doublers. I know you might be onto something here. Wolves get a win against Aston Villa, and then you're talking about a massive score. I mean, just look at David Moyes in Gameweek 23, for example. A 1-0 victory against Brighton, but the table bonus and the clean sheet meant he got 19 points, whilst Arne Slot in a 4-1 win over Ipswich Town, although no clean sheet, of course, he got 10 points. So it goes to show how important those table bonus can be. I think that could work really well for you, but I would recommend a double game week manager in 24. What about triple captain 24, then Asman 25-27? That also works very well, and I get why some people are considering it. I just think with the back-to-back doubles, it just makes a lot of sense. You can always use the triple captaincy later in the season, albeit it's not ideal, because you'll probably have more rotation, especially for the top teams and if certain clubs have reached their objectives. David Abu says, hey Dylan, I have Alisson, Trent, Salah, can't afford Alisson to Pickford. Which keeper at 4.8 million or less would you go to instead? Kepa or Flecken? Out of those options, it would be Kepa. I'm not a big fan of him as an FPL asset. I'd rather go for Howson or Kirkes to cover Bournemouth defensively. And you've also got Semenyo and Kluivert in the midfield. Even Dango Ouattara, who was a skip the other day in my recent video, I still think is a good long-term purchase. I just don't think he should be bought right now against Liverpool. I'm going to do Gakpo to Vissa and get Slot as my assistant manager. I'll be honest, I wish I had that Brentford slot available. I'd make those moves and be very happy. Despite selling Gakpo for a hit, that would be the case for me. I still think that works very well, and I prefer Vissa over Ndiaye. Nashmi says, what do you think about selling Gordon to Kluivert to get funds for buying Slot? Yeah, I bought Gordon fairly recently, and that's kind of bitten me in the ass, you could say, unintended. Yeah, I do like that. I think long-term Kluivert offers better value. Bournemouth have great fixtures, whilst Newcastle will likely blank in Game Week 29, and they won't double in 25. You also save a lot of money there to go for Arne Slot. I'm on board, absolutely. SOCLH says, guys, would you sell Raya to Kepa for a -4 just to afford Slot? If Arsenal doubles, that would suck. Yes, it is unlikely. I'm an Arsenal fan myself. I don't think Arsenal will do it. I really hope they prove me wrong. But the problem, of course, is this weekend. Will Raya play? It looks like he is a major doubt for that match. But if you're asking me, I think Raya does start against Man City. Otherwise, I'm not going to be very confident seeing Neto against that Man City attack. Richard Millichip says, such a stupid thing for FPL to announce a double game week without knowing the actual teams involved. Wish they had just waited until the EFL Cup finalists are known, just creating chaos and confusion. I get what you're saying. I mean, it is the Premier League doing it, not technically FPL, although they are a subdivision of the Premier League. I get that. But I understand where you're coming from. The thing is, it would still be chaotic, arguably even more so, if this happened. Well, maybe I'm incorrect about that. It would have made more sense for that announcement to have happened later. So I do get what you're saying. It's a big shock. No one expected those doubles to be announced. I think Fulham Spurs made a lot of sense. We all kind of talked about it in detail. But yeah, for the others, it's definitely a big shock. I think you're probably right, actually. Sian says, hey Dylan, I have no triple captain left. Do you think Moyes is a no-brainer for me this week when I have 0.5 million exactly and free Liverpool? It does seem like, the heavens, everything's coming down. It's all aligning for you. So maybe you could still consider selling a Liverpool asset, especially a Konate, Van Dijk, possibly even Gakpo. I know some people are entertaining selling Trent, and I get it because you've got more alternatives in the defensive line like Kirkes long-term, Mikalenko, Tarkowski, etc. But yeah, I think it all depends on that third Liverpool player you've got. But that's also another possibility for you. Would you have enough money to make a reasonable downgrade from your third Liverpool asset and then buy Arne Slot? But if not, I just go for David Moyes. I think that's fairly simple, and you can always swap him to a Double Gameweek 25 manager. Sí, claro, says Senor Benor. Easy99 puts us, yeah, we covered that, of course. With Van de Ven back, do you reckon Liverpool will win? Nah, that's not enough because it's at Anfield. I think Liverpool will go strong. And with Tottenham Hotspur, even with Van de Ven in the team, they've got a pretty poor record this season. And in the last couple of years, well, since last season when Van de Ven joined the club, defensively, they still leave a lot to be desired. So it makes an impact, of course, it's helpful. It gives Spurs a better chance, but I don't think Liverpool will fail to score. I think they'll get the job done, personally. Taylor Rudkin says, with the double possibly next week for Liverpool, do I do Van Dijk to someone, then use the AM chip? My other Liverpool players are Gakpo and Salah. Well, you could also consider selling Gakpo instead, but it all depends on, would you rather replace Gakpo with an Ndiaye or Vissa, for example, and I'd recommend the latter, instead of selling Van Dijk to Mikalenko Tarkowski, let's say. But yeah, I think either Van Dijk or Gakpo would be sellable in this case, and you go for Arne Slot as your AM. But David Moyes is absolutely fine, especially with those table bonus. I don't think it's smart to sell Liverpool players for hits to get slots, says Charis. Jota will be eased in like last time, or he won't start. He won't start. Gakpo is out, starting left wing, could easily outscore Slot. Target, table bonus. You could be right. Like I said, look, I've been very bullish on the AM chip this week, but I didn't say you have to go for Arne Slot. I just think that might be the best play. But David Moyes with the potential table bonus, yeah, that could still work very well too. I'm still thinking about it myself, and I've got my transfer plans kind of set. It's just about, do I go David Moyes or Arne Slot? And I'll make a final decision in the next few hours. Can you play AM on 3 different weeks like 25, 27, 32? No. Once you activate it, it's active for 3 game weeks in a row. So if you activate it in game week 25, it will be in game week 25, 26, and 27. You can't choose the game weeks where it's active, but that's a good question. So yeah, good to see Charis and Mohit engaging in the live chat together. And I know I'm very far behind, of course. I'm just trying to catch up with everything that's been said before. Oh, geez, I'm probably very far behind. I mean, I know I was babbling on with the ins and outs of the chips. In Discord, I have shared tables based on AM projected points. This may help people. I appreciate that. If there is a link, I'd appreciate it because maybe I could share it on screen too. But I'll have a look right now. I see. Yeah. Okay. I do appreciate that. And yeah, there are several websites that do include AM projected points now, which makes a lot of sense. Let me just show a few different screens, and you'll see them tomorrow, of course, in more detail. So the likes of Fantasy Football Hub haven't updated. Well, actually, they have. They just did it now. Okay. So, silence, Dylan. For Double Gameweek 25, they got all the possible doubles factored in. So that's fair enough. As you can see, Liverpool, Everton, Arsenal, Fulham, Spurs are in the top 6 there. Same with Chelsea, but of course the provisional double helps a lot there. Let's look at the bottom teams in this fixture difficulty rating. Man City, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, Leicester, and Southampton. As for predicted points, yes, Salah, Gakpo, Trent, Diaz, Palmer, Alisson, Szoboszlai, Pickford, Van Dijk and Konate in the top 10. So apart from Palmer, it's dominated by Liverpool and Everton players because of the double this week. As for projected price rises, we've got Kluivert, Trent and Gakpo. And Gakpo is actually the most transferred in player. Spoiler alert, because I was going to show it later on. But a lot of people might be looking to sell him now to get Arne Slot in. As for projected price falls, we've got Savio, Lewis, Chris Wood, Johnson, Strand Larsen, Beleba, Duran, who is on his way to Saudi Arabia, João Gomez, Cher, Dunk. Let's see if there's anyone else. Somerville, Mosquera, Gruder, and Ben White, who is definitively out of the game against Man City, but he should return fairly soon for the Gunners. Let's also go to Draft Hound. They have changed their recommendation from Veltman to Mikalenko, and instead they recommend selling Chris Wood to Ndai. They also contemplate Colwell to Martinez, Gordon to Ahmad, Robinson to Gay, and other transfers like that, but only number 1 is remotely entertaining to me at the moment. As for some polls I put out on my channel, this was several days ago before all the chaos that ensued. Veltman to Mikalenko is leading the vote, and in second is Sells to Pickford, which I just don't see myself doing right now. Wood to Ndai is third, and 2 of those transfers for a hit is last with 8% of the vote, but I'll probably take a -4 hit anyway if I want to go for Arne Slot or David Moyes as my assistant manager. So speaking of which, these are also some transfer plans which kind of include that sort of move happening. So Gordon to Rodgers is first, Wood to Ndai is second, and Gordon to Kluivert is third, and this would allow me to buy one of those managers in my setup. And the other one, it kind of gives a full breakdown. So everything I talked about in the slides, of course, with the Gameweek 25 announcements is all covered in this post if you want to check it out. So Gakpo to Ndai and getting Slot is winning this vote with 61%. In second is doing something like Gordon to Rodgers or maybe Chris Wood to Ndai and getting David Moyes. Maybe if I went for that instead, this poll would be a lot closer. So, of course, that plays a big part too. Let's now go to the stats section. The most transferred in players this week, Gakpo, Kluivert, Ndai, Pickford and Mbumo are in the top 5. And we've got more Liverpool and Everton assets just after, like Trent, Mikalenko, who might come in for me anyway. Diaz and Marmoush is up there too. Let's look at the most transferred out players, which I didn't show in my recent Transfers podcast with the new format and graphics. But Chris Wood is top. Jimenez, João Pedro, Gordon, Jackson, Palmer, Raya, Cunha, Gabriel, and Savio are all in the top 10, unless I can't count, which is a possibility. Thank you very much. Let's go to fpl.team and see what they think in terms of expected points with the different transfer plans I've got on offer. So, this is what they're saying. By going for David Moyes, having Mikalenko for Veltman, and Ndai in for Chris Wood for a -4 hit to fund the David Moyes move, I would have 0.9 million in the bank, and the expected points is 94.4. I also preserve my triple up in Liverpool with Trent, Salah, and Gakpo. The alternative is to get Arne Slot, Sell Gakpo, I think, although Trent would be the other possibility. There's no way in hell I'm selling Salah, of course. I'd still buy Mikalenko for Veltman in this case. And it would be Chris Wood in my team, and I sell my other forward instead, Gakpo, 2 and die for a -4 hit. The expected points is 94.0, so literally a difference of 0.4 million in David Moyes' favour. Do you agree? Let me know in the live chat. I'd be very interested to see your thoughts, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow when I'll probably have a better idea. And in fact, I hope I would have made those transfers by then so I can focus on your predicaments instead. Mr. Parky says, for example, Slot predicted 14.5, Moyes 11, then over 3 weeks drops to 7th in the top scoring options among managers. That's a really good, I'd say analysis, synopsis there. Definitely one to look at. I think the predicted points can be quite helpful, but ultimately the table bonus I think will shake things up a lot, and the surprising results will lead to massive swings. The problem I think with a high risk, high reward pick like David Moyes is the fact that it can go really well, but it could also go horribly wrong, and you completely waste the most powerful chip in the game. So I think with the kind of top managers like Arne Slot, Mikel Arteta, etc., even Guardiola to a certain extent, I think you've got more consistency and reliability, but a lower ceiling. Slot, Emery, Silva predicted highest in 25. Fair enough. Let's see which double actually takes place in 25, but that's definitely one to look at. Hi Dylan, sell Rye for Pickford for a -4. Not sure about a -4 here. I mean, I personally think Rye will play this week. I don't think Arsenal will double in 25 because they would have to beat Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final by 3 goals or win on penalties. It's a close one, but I'd probably say no at this moment in time. If you are fearful of Rye missing out, though, it's not a bad hit. Pickford is the best goalkeeper this week and a decent option in the long term. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Apologies for seeing it late. So Balu says, Gordon to Clove at -4 to get Moyes. Worth it? I think it is. So I'm guessing the reason for that is to get the funds available to get David Moyes. Yeah, that's the only reason for that. I think Kluivert is a great transfer in long term regardless. I recommended him this week, of course, and I probably made a mistake kind of talking about skipping him for the next 2 fixtures in Forest and Liverpool. We all know what he did in Game Week 23. But yeah, I think it is worthwhile. Gordon is a solid asset, but I think the hit justifies itself, and you can always swap Moyes to another manager. Just be mindful that if you want to go from Moyes to Marco Silva or Ange Postecoglou in 25, if Spurs reach the Carabao Cup final, you need money in the bank to make that possible. But I think with that transfer, you give yourself that luxury. So I would go ahead with it. Personally, I'm very bullish on the AM chip in 24. So yeah, I do appreciate all the comments coming in. I actually have no idea how many, views, likes, or stuff like that we have, but let's try to get this stream to over 200 likes if possible. I do appreciate those that have decided to tune in today. We've got a lot of likes already, and if you have missed it, rewind the stream, especially once we're done, and go to the other segments where I break down all the chips, the best time to use them, and also the assistant manager chip with all the possible double game weeks in 33 or 36, and of course in 25. And also the blank game mix, which is very important to take into account. Thank you to Stepaki, as always. Sell Foden to a Bournemouth asset to afford Arne Slot. I think so. And Foden is facing Arsenal this week. I mean, he's in great form himself. It's never easy selling that sort of asset when he's in the mood. But yeah, I think that's a great opportunity for you. Anachronism puts his squad. No triple captainship left. Plan my future in AM chip. Love. Well, I'll maybe think of something quickly, but I can't give too much thought into it because there's a lot of different questions coming up as well. And maybe tomorrow I'll be in a better position to give you a very, very good list of transfers and stuff like that you can do. So in your case, you've got 0 free transfers available. You've got Gakpo, Salah and Trent. That's good. You might want to consider going for Arne Slot instead. But I'll be honest, I think the best thing for you to do is just go for David Moyes as your assistant manager, and rolling transfers will be very crucial. I think those that have got 3, 4, 5 available moves are in a great position. I wasted all my transfers recently, so I'm a bit gutted. But in your case, I'd keep it simple this week. Go for David Moyes as your assistant manager, then reassess going into Double Gameweek 25. Polo Goose says, Gakpo to Asman Slot leaves me 0.1 million short of Vissa, who would be second best cheap striker. Because of the double this week, it would be Ndai, but I think Vissa is a much better asset long term. So I'll be honest, if I could get to Vissa, and I can't because I got a triple up in Brentford because I'm dumb, then yeah, I would have probably done it already and just stuck with Arne Slot. But yeah, it's probably in die, in my opinion. TRFC7 says, should I assistant manager on Moyes? I already have triple Liverpool. I would have to do a -8 to bring in Slot. I'd still consider going for Slot with the -8, but in your situation, I think it makes more sense to go for David Moyes. He's also got the highest ceiling because of table bonus. HYFY says, I've got Alisson, Trent and Salah. Should I take a -4 to get Alisson out to free up the funds for Asman? I love that everyone calls it Asman and we all know what we're talking about. I think so. Now, even David Moyes, if you can just afford him, that's great. You do it for free. But if it's just a question of a -4 for either Moyes or Slot, I'd probably lean towards Slot at the moment. But I'll be honest, it's not clear-cut for me. That's a decision I'll overthink, tinker with until the end of the night. But with your question, I think that's fine, taking the hit to go for Arne Slot, sorry. Using Moyes as my assistant manager this week, 2 home games. Yeah, and it's the last Merseyside derby at Goodison Park. They beat Liverpool 2-0 back in April to effectively end their title hopes at the time. I don't think that'll happen this time in terms of ending their title hopes, but you just never know in a derby. Anything can happen. And David Moyes has got Crystal Palace away and United at home afterwards, and you can easily switch him to Ange Postecoglou, Marco Silva, or another manager, perhaps Unai Emery in Game Week 25, and target those table bonus and the double game weeks. I think that's fine. What do you think of selling Gordon to Kluivert to get funds for buying Slot? Yeah, as mentioned before, I'm actually on board with that. I like Anthony Gordon, and this week I think he's better than Kluivert, but long term, you save a lot of money, you go for Arne Slot with back-to-back doubles I think you'll have, and if not, you can always sell Arne Slot in 25 anyway and really make use of the most powerful chip in the game. Hi Dylan, best 5 million midfielder? It would be Ouattara, although maybe he's gone up in the last couple of days. I need to double check that for you. No, he's still 5 million. Yeah, Dango Ouattara would be the standout. Bournemouth and Everton will be tough games for Liverpool. Not activating the chip yet since Game Week 27, United versus Ipswich and Chelsea versus Southampton. Yeah, but look, you make a good point. You are talking about Man United though. They are 13th in the league table, I think they are. They're facing Ipswich and Chelsea. So you only get table bonus against Chelsea there, which, fair enough, that could work very well. Southampton, okay. But it's a decent, like, single game week opportunity. And Iraola would have been another one this week, facing Liverpool at home, of course, and then having Southampton and Wolves. But I just think United are too unreliable. So that's a high-risk, high-reward pick. It might work for you, but I'd just be slightly careful with Man United. Why can't I use a system manager chip? It just shows pending, because you have to confirm the transfer and then it goes through. It's a bit like the wildcard or free hit, because if you just activate the chip, you know, you click the button, that doesn't mean it's actually active. You have to confirm the transfers, then it goes through. But what I'd say to people right now, maybe some of you are pulling the trigger already, be very mindful about who you pick first, because I covered it earlier in the Asman section, the assistant manager chip. What you want to do is make sure you know for sure who you want. So if it's David Moyes, go for him. If it's Arne Slot, stick with the Dutch manager, because if you decide to make a switch after confirming your original selection, that will take up a transfer or a -4 hit potentially if you have exceeded your transfer limit. So be very mindful about your final choice. Start Ahmad or Murphy in Double Gameweek 24. That is a close one. I would favour Ahmad. Ruler2 says, Dylan, I wildcarded. Is it too risky going without Isak until 30? Well, Isak has been in brilliant form, but I think it will be a very popular strategy to sell him to Watkins if Aston Villa double in Game Week 25, and that ultimately depends on Liverpool. If they reach the Carabao Cup final, Liverpool and Villa will double in 25. So, yeah, I think that's a very solid move, actually. Sell Foden to a Bournemouth asset to afford Arne Slot? Yeah, as mentioned before, I'd go for it. Let me just go to the recent questions. I do realize I'm obviously very far behind. Thank you, Aranya. Always a pleasure to see you. I need some explanation to understand table bonus. Okay, so let's go back to the graphics I had set out earlier. So this is what we've kind of come up with. So if you haven't already, rewind to basically the entire section where I discuss all the chips and the table bonus and opportunities for double gameweeks this season, even talking about blanks. It's all covered one after the other early in this stream, but this is the table. If your chosen manager gets a win, they get 6 points. A draw is 3 points. You get none for a loss. A goal means 1 point. A clean sheet means 2. Table bonus, so that's what you asked about. So the way it works is, if you go for David Moyes in Double Gameweek 24, and let's say Everton beat Liverpool in that double, you don't just get 6 points for it, you get 10 points on top of it. So you would get 16 points for a win because Everton have beaten Liverpool, who are so many, league positions above them in the table. I believe it's 15 actually. So they would get 10 points and then 6. That's 16 points. If Everton get a draw against Liverpool though, they get 6 points for that draw and also the 3 that you normally get. So that'd be 9 points overall. Hopefully you get that. It might not have been the best explanation I've ever done, but I think that might suffice. It's an example we've got coming up in the next couple of weeks actually, but for Double Gameweek 24, of course, there's a massive gap between 24 and 25, yet it will be back-to-back doubles, something no one expected actually, so it should be very, very fun, I should say. But if you don't understand that, Rania, let me know and I can go through it again, but I'd encourage you to rewind the stream and go back to it because I think I explained it even better at that stage. Hey Dylan, hope all is well. Likewise, mate. No worries, Ashwin. Did I miss something? Yeah, you might have missed a lot, mate. I mean, if you're living under a rock or you've just been, disconnecting from FPL, we've had a massive announcement of Double Gameweek 25. All the permutations have been covered earlier in this stream. Maybe what I'll do, because I know some people are, tuning in late and stuff like that, is going through it in this video again. So let's put this video forward. Let's go to here. So you can read it obviously on screen yourself, but for those that are tuning in new, if Liverpool reach the Carabao Cup final, Liverpool and Aston Villa will double in Gameweek 25 and blank in 29. Liverpool would face Wolves at home and Aston Villa away in Gameweek 25, whilst Villa would have Ipswich Town and Liverpool both at home. If Arsenal reach the Carabao Cup final, Arsenal and Chelsea will double in Gameweek 25 and blank in Gameweek 29. The potential fixtures would be Arsenal versus Leicester City away and Chelsea at home, whilst Chelsea have Brighton and Arsenal away. The other possibility is Tottenham Hotspur. If they reach the Carabao Cup final, they would face Man United at home and Fulham away, whilst Fulham have Nottingham Forest and Spurs at home. If Newcastle reach the final though, it's slightly different. They won't double in Gameweek 25, it looks like. Instead, Gameweek 33 is the most likely scenario as neither team is in Europe. Hopefully you get that and everything is kind of very clear in this video. I think it is, but you never know. Do you get the funds immediately if you downgrade your AM in the second or third game week? Yes, you get it back immediately. And at the end of the free game week period, you get all of your money back and you can invest it into your 15-man squad. Twisted Parky says, so Slot versus Moyes and your teams, the points are the same, but you have to remember Moyes with a transfer, would not want to keep Miklenko and die. Yeah, true. So free transfers there. Maybe keep one for 29, but not the best options. Yeah. I mean, on one hand, you've got more table bonus opportunities with David Moyes, but on the other hand, Arne Slot will probably prevent you from making a transfer there. So I completely get what you're saying. I'm going to be thinking about it all night and then make a decision, but I'll be honest, I haven't lent one way over the other. Even earlier this week when I said I prefer Slot, it wasn't by much over David Moyes. Nucleatum says, should I do Gakpo out for Ndai, Fleck into Pickford, and then bring Slot for a -8? I probably would. I mean, if you could get David Moyes for free or a -4 hit, that would also be a possibility for you to consider, but I think that's a decent -8 and it could work out. I think it's that powerful. Is Ndai even fit? Didn't he come off early? Yeah, I think he's fit. He's absolutely fine. I mean, look, I like him as a player, but FPL-wise, I don't think he's amazing. He's really just a Gameweek 24 punt, and it gives me the money to go for David Moyes or Arne Slot. If I could, I'd go for this all day long. I just wish I had that Brentford slot open, but I'm a bloody idiot, it seems. Could assistant manager be better for the next few weeks? I think it's the best time to use it. Yeah, Gameweek 24 to 26, you've got back-to-back double gameweeks pretty much. Okay, good to hear, Ashwin. Got it, Dylan. Thanks a lot for explaining it again. No worries. And yeah, like I said, everything has been covered about the assistant manager chip, the doubles and blanks, and also everything. All the chips, the best time to use it. and I'll go through that again very soon because I'll kind of discuss my current plans with my chip strategy. If Newcastle go through, they'll be the only doublers of Palace in 33? That's a great question. There is a possibility that Game Week 33 will have 6 to 8 teams doubling, maybe even 10. There is also that chance that Game Week 36 won't be a double in the end, so instead they all go into Game Week 33, then those teams that double in that game week will then blank in 34. So there's a lot of ifs and buts and a lot of things that aren't clear-cut just yet, but there is a chance that Palace and Newcastle are the only doublers in 33, but I think it's more likely we'll see more doubles happening in Game Week 33 at the moment, and I think 6 to 8 is a fairly decent assumption, but once again, not set in stone. Trinish says -8 for Alisson to Pickford and Hall to Mikalenko, so I can use Assman chip on slot. I think so, yeah. I really just think the AM chip being used this week, even for a hit or two, is still very powerful, and I'd highly recommend it. James123 says, hello Dylan, just logged in. Is going a -4 to take out Wood for Visser a good move? I like Visser a lot, but I probably wouldn't do that move. If that gives you the funds to buy David Moyes or Arne Slot, then okay, fair enough. But otherwise, I just keep Wood for now, and you can always buy Visser in the future. Gordon or Rodgers bench one? This might be unpopular, but I actually prefer Rodgers this week. Can we cover the points prediction for Arne Slot over Double Gameweek 24 and 25? I need to double check and see where I can find the points predictions for those managers. That's something I haven't got up, unfortunately. But if I can find it, I will let you know. I do think several websites, maybe Fantasy Football Hub, have done it themselves, but I'm not entirely convinced they have. Maybe they've... Oh, they actually do. They do. All right. Let's go to Fantasy Football Hub then. They do have a new section. I think they've added it fairly recently. So, yeah, that's also going to be covered in tomorrow's deadline stream. So, this is what they've gone for. But let's look at the next 3 game weeks. Game week 24 to 26, which is when the chip would be active if you decide to use it now. Arne Slot is top with 31.7 predicted points for game week 24, 25, and 26. This is with, of course, assuming that these teams would double in 25. And, of course, not all of them can. It all depends on the Carabao Cup finalists and their respective opponents in blank game week 29. And then those fixtures are brought forward to game week 25. So Marco Silva is second, which is quite surprising, actually, because I saw a graphic fairly recently where I think he was ranked as one of the lowest in terms of value amongst assistant managers. Emery is third with 24.5. Mikel Arteta has 24.2. Ursula is fifth, I can't count, with 21.9. Iriola is then 6th. Moyes is 7th. So a massive difference there between Slot and Moyes. I think that double that Liverpool will likely get in 25 kind of seals the deal there. Postecoglou, Guardiola, Maresca, Juric, Eddie Howe, Vitor Pereira, Thomas Frank, Van Nistelrooy, Glasner, McKenna, Amrim, Potter, and Nuno Espirito Santo are in the bottom there. So that's all the managers covered and the predicted points. Feel free to pause if you kind of missed anything and you want to see in detail, but that is the current projections according to Fantasy Football Hub. They are very bullish on Arne Slot. David Moyes is 7th in this list, if I can count. Yeah, I can bloody count. Yeah. So yeah, he's 7th. So thank you for the question, because I actually forgot that they added this part to the website. Would you rather play the triple captain this week and use the AM next week to get a clearer view which teams double next week? Yeah, that's a fair shout as well. And I've been asked this already about triple captain now and assistant manager next week. For those that are looking to do it the other way around, you can't do that. You can't go for Arne Slot or David Moyes this week and then triple captain Salah next week because the AM chip will still be active. But in your case, that's a solid strategy, not a bad plan at all. I still would recommend using the AM chip now though, if you can. Solskjaer Bosley or Gakpo to get Slot? I'd rather Solskjaer Bosley. Maybe go from him to Danga or Ouattara, Kluivert or Semenyo. You've got that Bournemouth asset for the long term and you can buy Arne Slot. That's a perfect solution. Gakpo doesn't have a great away record, which makes me more keen to sell him for the double game at 24. I just think Slot is a priority over him, but I think Szoboszlai would be the worst FPL option of the lot, so I'd recommend selling him. Bench 1, Gordon, Kluivert or Ndai. Don't bench Ndai when he's got a double game week, including Leicester at home. As good as Kluivert has been, I would consider benching him because he's facing Liverpool, the best team across Europe at the moment. So If people are considering doing a transfer this week solely to raise funds to buy an AM, then consider getting a cheap potential Double Gameweek 25 player in, example Rodgers or Iwobi, rather than Bournemouth mids. Yeah, really good suggestion as well. That is a great point. And I did mention Rodgers a lot in my wildcard video, although of course the context is a lot different now. I think people will be very keen on Rodgers following that hat-trick in the Champions League against Celtic, and now of course with a potential double in Gameweek 25. So that's a great suggestion. And I was considering doing Gordon to Rodgers myself, which allows me to get David Moyes or Arne Slot as my AM assistant manager. Thank you as well for the super chat, Aranya. So people with triple Liverpool and Moyes AM this game week will want Everton to win versus Paul. So triple Paul could be in the mud, even if they win versus Bournemouth away, which is dicey. Yeah, you make a good point. I can see what you're saying there, but you could still get an Everton win. Salah scores in the game, maybe Trent gets an assist, so you can get points from all of them, although it's going to be unlikely. You kind of cover all bases from that perspective, but at the same time, it can go terribly wrong. And I said this before, as good as David Moyes looks on paper, you know, you could have a really high ceiling in this free gaming period, and I think most people would pretty much just have him for 24, then switch him to another manager that doubles in the following week, but it can go horribly wrong. It really could. Maybe Leicester get a draw or a win, and of course, Everton don't get table bonus against them anyway. And then against Liverpool, they might lose 2 or 3-0, and then it's all in the mud. So, yeah, there's no clear-cut way of playing FPL. I just think with the Double Gameweek 25 announcement, I think it's a great opportunity to use it now. Although you don't have as much information, I was going to recommend using it towards the end of the season before this announcement, because you know how the chip works. You've got examples, of course, in place, and you know what you need to do. Do you need to go big, go for the jugular and go for a high-risk, high-reward manager, or do you go for the conservative Arne Slot, for example, later in the season to preserve your rank or your mini-league standings? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting how it plays out, but you make a very good point, I'm not going to lie. So if I buy a manager and player, is that a -4? Okay, so this was covered earlier in the stream, so be sure to check out, you know, all the slides and stuff because it's all covered. Once you activate the assistant manager chip and you select David Moyes, that doesn't count as a transfer. But if you activate the chip, you confirm the move, and then you decide, you know what, I want Arne Slot, that will count as a transfer and possibly a -4 hit. So hopefully you get that. Who to replace Diaz to get Slot? Well, as Richard Millichip said rightfully earlier, I think Morgan Rodgers could be very good, especially if you back Liverpool to reach the Carabao Cup final, because that means Aston Villa will double in Gameweek 25, and you've got good fixtures from Rodgers against Wolves away and Ipswich Town at home just beforehand. So that's one decent choice. I still like Dango Ouattara, Kluivert and Semenyo, with Kluivert being my favourite of the three. And there are a few others where that came from. Of course, Eze looks like he's a bit of a doubt. He would have been a decent option, of course, but I would lean towards Rodgers or one of the Bournemouth midfielders at the moment. Asman to Moyes this week and Slot the next. What's your thoughts? That could also work very well, but I'll be honest, if you've got that Liverpool spot available, why not just go Slot now? And then you've got back-to-back doubles for Slot, and you don't make a transfer, and you've got 4 fixtures in 2 game weeks if Liverpool reach the Carabao Cup final. So, yeah, there's so many different ways of playing it. I'm just giving my thoughts and predictions on what's going to happen. Let me go through these 2 questions, then I'm going to talk about chip strategies very briefly. Apologies. And let me go to my team, which it looks a bit dire at the moment, you could say. I haven't made a single transfer just yet, and I've only got 1 free move available. Duarte says, hey Dylan, I have 2.5 million in the bank, so I can easily afford Slot. Should I take a -4 to get rid of Konate and bring Slot, or just go Moyes? That's a difficult one to assess because, once again, Moyes has the higher ceiling, but also a lower floor, so to speak. I think Slot will kind of guarantee you a certain amount of points. The algorithms do back Slot a lot more, it looks like. They're very bullish on him, and he'll likely have back-to-back doubles, especially if you back Liverpool to reach the Carabao Cup final. From that perspective, I'd probably take the hit and sell Konate to get Slot in, but David Moyes is absolutely fine for free. Just bear in mind, you've got such a high ceiling, and also it could go terribly wrong. Eddie Cassie says, hi Dylan, would you play Asman on Amrim to -4, take out Mazraoui to Howson and play Ahmad and Fernandes to Palace, Chelsea, Everton? I wouldn't be using it on Amrim this week. I think later in the season, like Easy99 said, you could use it on Amrim. There was that double gimmick I highlighted around gimmick 33 or 36 for them, so I think Amrim could work very well there, or perhaps around gimmick 26 to 28, but I wouldn't be using it on Amrim right now. I don't think that makes any sense. I'd rather just go for double gimmick clubs or managers. So that would be Arne Slot or Moyes this week. And then next week, you've got the pick of the bunch, as I mentioned before, but not for me. So in terms of chip strategies, my current plan is to free hit in either Gimmick 29 or 34. I'll keep my options open. I think the wildcard will likely be deployed between Gimmick 30 and 32, and that ultimately depends on how my team looks like in those given game weeks. The bench boost will be used in either Gimmick 33 or 36 for me. I think the bigger double gimmick will likely be where I use my bench boost. As for the triple captaincy though, I've used it already in Gimmick 2, so I kind of cheated there. If I still had that booster available, I would use it in one of Gimmick 33 or 36. So probably in the smaller double gimmick basically, and use the bench boost in the bigger one. It all depends on how that turns out. And as for the assistant manager chip, my plan is to use it now between gimmicks 24 and 26, and you can't use any other chip during that free gimmick period, and I would use the rest of my boosters later in the season, so that makes a lot of sense there. Hopefully you've kind of followed that and this video has been useful to you. If so, smash the like button, subscribe for new. Let's try to get this stream to over 200 likes because it's a lot of information, a lot of things to talk about, and I've already covered some different scenarios, transfer plans, AM, thoughts and stuff like that, so it'd be very much appreciated. And tomorrow there will be a deadline stream, so the fun doesn't stop there. This has been a chaotic week to say the least for UCL Fantasy and FPL, and it's all been covered on this channel. Bench Hall, Munoz or Gabriel? Difficult one. I would consider benching Munoz from those three. Trent to Aina, have Alisson for a -4 to get slot. I'll be honest, I'd rather sell Alisson, but I get why you're saying you'd rather, or you're considering selling Trent, because that would give you enough money. But if you can find a way to do Alisson to Pickford or something like that, I'd highly recommend doing that instead. As a Chelsea fan, for the first time I support Arsenal to go to the final, as I have Chelsea players. FPL can make you do weird things, right? Asman to Moyes this week and Slot the next. What's your thoughts? Yeah, I just covered that, so hopefully you got it. Who to sell Van Dijk to get Slot? Already have Mikalenko. Yeah, I'm not too keen on having two Everton defenders per se. I'd actually be more keen on doing Pickford and Mikalenko. It might not make a lot of sense, but in terms of having 2 out of 5 defender slots on the same team, I'm not a big fan of that, especially Everton. But Kirkes is a great long-term transfer. Not ideal for this week against Liverpool, but that could work very well. You could also consider teams that will potentially double in Gimmick 25, so that could also be an Aston Villa option, although I'm not too keen on their defenders, but that's something to look at. So I think that could really pay off for you. If you're backing Spurs to reach the final, even Robinson could be a nice shout as a transfer now. Evening Dylan, hope you're doing well. Start Iwobi or Sarr this week. I'd possibly go for Sarr. Very, very close though. Rodgers or Kluivert? Rodgers this week. Best replacement for Konate, -4 to get slots is Sefer, considering Mikalenko and Gay. Yeah, I think Mikalenko makes sense. He could also be your 4th or 5th defender. He's got a double this week. Yeah, Mikalenko for me. If Liverpool draw with Bournemouth and lose to Everton, wouldn't the AM chip be a disaster? Well, no, because Liverpool, if they reach the Carabao Cup final, would have another double gimmick in 25, so it's still, there's the possibility it can still work very well for you, and one of those fixtures is Wolves at home. Aston Villa away is quite tough on paper, but Liverpool are the favourites to win that game. There is no table bonus. Look, ultimately with any sort of like AM chip, whenever you decide to use it, there is the possibility of disaster, fatality. But I think with Slot, you've got a more guaranteed baseline of points compared to David Moyes. Having said that, the ceiling won't be as high. Gabriel or Robinson this week? Gabriel. Not too keen on either club keeping a clean sheet this week though. Wow, breaking. Tell has rejected the Spurs offer. Yeah, a lot of reports I've seen have indicated that he's been thinking about it. Bayern Munich were in agreement with Tottenham Hotspur, but yeah, it looks like he's keeping his options open. Maybe other clubs like Arsenal have maybe, kind of tapped him. Who knows? Pause. Is Eze's injury confirmed? If so, should I bring in Gordon or Gabriel? He's not definitively ruled out. Like I said, I'll talk more about injuries and suspensions and all of that in tomorrow's deadline stream. The main focus, of course, today is the chip strategy, but I don't think Eze is officially ruled out. I'll try to have a look now to see for sure, because I don't want to spread misinformation, but I'm fairly sure that's not the case. Let's see if I can get the exact quotes on Eze. Oh, okay, maybe I am wrong. No, he is out. Okay, apologies for that. So Eze is out, it looks like, according to multiple sources, with a knock he sustained in the cup game. Wait, what? Yeah. Wow. No, because that seemed like so long ago. They're mentioning the Arsenal game in the cup where he sustained a problem, but that's a few weeks ago we're talking about. But yeah, that is the case. Eze is out against Man United with a knock he sustained in the cup game versus Arsenal pre-Christmas. Club want to get him pain-free. He won't travel. So there you go. Yeah, Eze is out. That is the latest update. Apologies for that. I actually thought he wasn't definitively ruled out, so that's my mistake. When should we use triple captain and assistant manager? I just covered that, mate. So if I still had the triple captaincy available, I'd be looking to use it in Game Week 33 or 36. Both both Game Weeks could be a double. There is the possibility that Game Week 36 won't be. But essentially, if we get the case where both of them are doubles, I'd prioritize using the bench boost in the bigger double game week and then using the triple captaincy in the smaller one. But it also depends on the teams that double. You know, if Salah's got a double later in the season, that looks really enticing. But with the assistant manager chip, I'd recommend using it now. Worth using my final transfer by selling Gakpo, Trent? If so, who to get? The slot, or sell Joao Pedro to Beto or Gordon to a cheaper mid and just bring in Moyes? I'm not keen on buying Beto. Even with Ndai, I'm not a big fan of him, but I'd rather go in that direction. Yeah. I would rather sell Gakpo and keep Trent to get slot. That would be my preference, but I don't know the full context of your team in terms of budget, future moves, and stuff like that. That's just my general opinion. What if Liverpool disappoint and drop points? Will it still be worth it? What about saving Asman this week and not activating next week depending on the results? The main reason why I'm so bullish on the assistant manager chip is because you've got back-to-back double game weeks. So if you can get 4 fixtures from the best team in the league and you don't need to make a transfer with that chip, I think it just looks really well settled. There's not one definitive way of playing it. I think there'll be a lot of big scores, especially from clubs near the bottom of the table. But essentially you are backing the club, not the manager, as I covered before. With Liverpool, Everton, any single team, it can go horribly wrong. But I just think it's more likely for it to go horribly wrong with the high-risk, high-reward picks like David Moyes and Everton this week, for example. But at the same time, the ceiling is so much higher. Ultimately, though, it depends on how you want to tackle it. Do you want to go aggressive or be conservative? Yep. Ayman, of course, the David Moyes one is good, but it is a possibility it doesn't go well. That's always going to be the case in FPL. Ivan, thank you for the super chat. Took a -4 already for Mbeumo and Mikalenko. Got Salah, Trent, Gakpo, and 1 Everton. Worth taking another -4 for Gakpo out and Ndai in to fund slot. Oof. Okay, so yeah, Mbeumo, Mikalenko, great transfers in, especially Mbeumo. Nice Liverpool triple up and 1 Everton. I think I'd take another hit and go for Arne Slot. And with Gakpo's away record, I'm not saying he can't score against Bournemouth or Everton, but his ceiling will be much lower compared to a home game, for example. And I did highlight this in my team selection video, but I just think Slot gives you potentially back-to-back doubles. I think they'll reach the Carabao Cup final, so I take the hit. Slot covers 5 fixtures since there's back-to-back double game weeks. Other managers could cover 4 with a double. Yeah, exactly that. And let's say, for example, if Liverpool don't reach the Carabao Cup final, you can sell Slot to just a double game at 25 managers, sorry. So, yeah, it can still work very well. Don't buy Beto. Everton are bringing in Alcaraz from Flamengo. He was at Southampton last season. Oh, Alcaraz, the Argentine, right? Yeah. He's got decent potential, I think. Yeah, well, either way, it's just Ndai or nothing from that Everton attack, and I'm only considering it to fund David Moyes or Arne Slot for my own team. I think Douglas Luiz to Man City looks more likely. Yeah, a lot of transfer activity as well. This is a very hectic period of the season. FPL have definitely timed things very strangely, you could say, with the AM chip being available from Game Week 24 onwards. Is Pickford captain to add on to the Everton hype? I wouldn't recommend that personally. I think Leicester could score against Everton. I did originally predict 2-0, but I am leaning towards a 2-1 now. But look, if you're backing that yourself, always trust your gut, especially if you're an Everton fan. You know, FPL's about having some fun, but I think Salah is undoubtedly the best captain. Yeah, Durant to Saudi, what a waste of talent. Yeah, it's a big shame, but he's made his bed, and he's getting a very lucrative offer, of course, and Aston Villa kind of settled that striker situation because it was kind of unsustainable, you could say. Should I deactivate triple captain and try to get AM? I'd recommend that. You don't have to do it, and Salah triple captain can still work very well, but I'm very bullish on having 4 fixtures from Arne Slot because I think they will reach the final, as I mentioned multiple times. Pickford or Mbeumo for free transfer this week. Henderson in goal already. Well, with Pickford, you got the double game week, but it's a goalkeeper transfer. Mbeumo long-term would be a great set-and-forget option. I'd probably go for Mbeumo. Well, this Friday has been something else. Slot Moyes. A lot of planning to do till deadline, yes. And make sure you don't do that sort of thing of, I'm going to get Moyes in. I lock in my assistant manager. Oh, wait, I want to change to Arne Slot. Don't do that because that means you will take hits and use transfers. You just want to pick one once you're absolutely sure about what you want to do. Eddie Cassie puts his team. I think I did cover this already, but I can do -4 for Wood, Outton, Die in, and go Moyes for 3 games. I have Pickford, Trent, Kanate, Munoz, Fernandes, Rogers, Palmer, Salah, Vissa, Isak, Wood, Fabianski, Ahmad, Mizraoui, Greaves. That's a good team. You don't need to have David Moyes for 3 game weeks though. Just for this double, maybe against Crystal Palace away, but you can switch him to a manager from a team that doubles in 25. That is why I'm so bullish on using the chip right now. But yeah, that's a very solid plan and team. I don't mind that actually. Nathaniel says, I think Watkins could be a very interesting move if Liverpool beat Spurs for the double. Yes, I will probably consider Isak to Watkins next week if I can afford it. This is why Arne Slot might make more sense for me, because if I go for David Moyes now, I will likely transfer him out in Game Week 25, which uses a transfer and could incur a -4 hit if I want to make other moves. But yeah, I think Watkins and Rodgers look really appealing for the double in 25 if Liverpool reach that final. Hassan says, I have Van Dijk, Alisson and Mo. Take out Van Dijk to Mikolenko or Alisson to Pickford to get Arne Slot? Great question. I would lean towards Alisson to Pickford. I think Van Dijk could score. He's got a very high ceiling in the double. I think he'll outscore Mikolenko quite comfortably. Whilst Alisson compared to Pickford, it could go either way. Pickford can hog all the bonus points. He can make penalty saves. So yeah, Alisson to Pickford, despite it being a goalkeeper move, is my preference. Good to see you, Baraf, and I'll see you tomorrow as well. Play Greaves or Robinson? I'd favour Robinson, to be fair. I've gone for a massive scoreline between Southampton and Ipswich Town. Sarr to Dango or Ouattara -4 to get Slot in? I probably would, yeah. And you might even bench Dango this week, but makes sense. It's not locked in for me, Odin. I am leaning towards Slot at the moment, but it means selling Gakpo or Trent. And I did cover this earlier, so just to show you, and if you have any thoughts, let me know in the live chat. The same goes for anybody watching. So if we go to fpl.team, I can get David Moyes as my manager, but it means selling, in this case, Chris Wood to Ndai, and I can buy Mikolenko for Veltman or Colwill as part of a -4 hit. So that could actually just be Colwill, just to keep things consistent here. So the expected points is 94.4. Let's just update the team here, have it saved. The alternative is for me to get Arne Slot, sell Gakpo whilst keeping Chris Wood, and I get Ndai. And for those that have a Brentford slot available, I'd highly recommend Vissa over Ndai. Long term, I think that's the best move. I can then buy Mikolenko for Veltman, and then have Arne Slot with 0.5 million in the bank, 94 expected points, but fpl.team do favour the David Moyes route with Ndai and Mikolenko, whilst keeping Gakpo in my squad. If we look at their expected points for the managers though, for David Moyes it's 9.6, my eyesight's terrible, and let's go to Arne Slot here. Arne Slot is 11.7, and a possible double in Game Week 25, which would be Wolves at home and Aston Villa away, then Man City away in Game Week 26, but by that stage you could swap out Arne Slot and go to any kind of appealing single game week manager or target the table bonus in that game week. But yeah, there's different ways of playing it. I think ultimately with either manager, I would make a change eventually. But I just think with Arne Slot, I am backing Liverpool to reach the final, have back-to-back doubles, and then I can switch him in Game Week 26 to another one. But nothing's clear-cut. I think both transfer plans look very solid, but maybe with the Everton route, it leaves me in a worse position with my 50-man squad in future game weeks. So if we look at Game Week 25, for example, and maybe let me get this message off screen. So yeah, that's been covered as well by FPL Cortex. So let's look at Game Week 25 with these provisional transfers. So with my predictions of Liverpool and Aston Villa doubling in 25, not looking too great to be fair. Obviously, I got the triple up in Liverpool, that's fine, but no Villa assets. Maybe I could do Isak to Watkins. So let's make this move here. Let's bring in Ollie Watkins. That's assuming that Liverpool reach the final, of course, just to make that very clear. You've got Ipswich Town at home and then Liverpool. And I would possibly get rid of David Moyes there, but then do I go to Emery? That's the thing. And I've got enough money in the bank to do that, but that would be a possible set of moves I could make for another -4 hit. But I just think with Arne Slot, for example, if we go back to that one and go to Game Week 25, just keep Arne Slot there, and then I could still do Isak to Watkins. The only thing is Ndiaye just doesn't look great, but I could just start Anthony Gordon over Ndiaye in Game Week 25. It's not terrible. If we compare the expected points, I mean 66.4 with this one, which is the Moyes and Emery route compared to Slot. Different ways of playing the game, of course, but very, very interesting. It might make sense for me actually to sell Gakpo and go for Arne Slot, but it's going to be a very interesting set of weeks coming up. That's what I'm leaning towards at the moment, just to be clear, but over the next few hours I'll lock in my team, I think, and hopefully have everything ready for the deadline stream tomorrow so I can focus on your questions, of course, in more detail. But that's my current thinking. Hopefully that's been quite consistent and concise throughout the video. Let's go for some more questions before wrapping up, because there will be that deadline stream tomorrow, of course. Thank you, Luis Bonilla. Very much appreciated. If we can, let's get the stream to 200 likes at the very least. Went to bench boost. As covered before, I would recommend Game Week 33 or 36, whichever Game Week ends up being the biggest double of the season. And I think it could be Game Week 33 actually, but nothing set in stone. Start Pedro or Kluivert. I favour Kluivert at this moment in time, despite the tougher fixture. The site I was just using was fpl.team, which is a free resource. You can visualize future game weeks. I've used it so many times across my videos. Imagine Spurs and Newcastle go to the final with FPL managers without Spurs or Fulham assets. Yeah, I think Newcastle will reach the final. But remember, they're not doubling in 25. They will likely double in Game Week 33. So Newcastle and Crystal Palace will double later in the season if Newcastle reach that final, but not in 25. FPL Equilibrium says, hello Dylan, hope you are good. Would you do Gakpo to a single Game Week player for free and use Slot, or go Moyes and have an extra double and keep Gakpo? Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Instead, it would be a -4 hit in either case. I would favour Arne Slot, but it's a really, really close one. I think David Moyes is still absolutely fine. He's got the highest ceiling, but also the possibility of it going completely wrong, I think. Whilst with Arne Slot, you will likely have back-to-back doubles, and you save that assistant manager transfer for at least another week. So that would be my current preference, but it isn't set in stone. Slot to complete Liverpool triple up? Yeah, I think so. Salah, Trent and Slot is the dream. So yeah, Eddie, I did cover your question as well. Best week Fastman? I think 24 is still absolutely fine to use it now. And you can go for David Moyes, as you mentioned earlier. Someone triple captain Dango last week? Yeah, I think he met Dango and the Bournemouth team, so fair play to him. Kunal says, thinking of bringing in Konsa for Van Dijk for a -4 to bring in Slot. Already have free Everton and Van Dijk, Trent and Mo. And if Liverpool win, then Konsa will get a double next week. Yeah, I'm not particularly fond of Konsa, but it's a double game week player. And Villa have decent fixtures for the next 2 game weeks, but not beyond that, in my opinion. Hello, Dylan. It's been a while. I have free Liverpool and Trent and Becker plus Slot. Should I be taking hits to bring in any Everton? Thanks, sir. Wait, so you've got Trent, Becker and Slot. You don't have Salah? If I misread that, then let me know. But I wouldn't be that, fussed about taking hits for Everton players. I might do it myself because my defensive line is quite dire. So I think Mikalenko would be an upgrade. Possibly 1 hit for an Everton player, no more. That could be Ndiaye up front, Pickford in goal, or Mikalenko at the back. But it all depends on the players you're selling as well to justify that hit. Hi, would you transfer out for free Trent for Konsa to get spot for Slot? I see what you're doing. Because of how powerful this chip is, I'd lean towards yes, but I'm not a big fan of Konsa, despite the possible double next week, which includes Liverpool. I'd favour Rodgers and Watkins if you're looking to double or triple up on Villa. I'm not too fond of their defenders. I think Ipswich Town at home is decent, but I think Villa will probably concede in that game. Matthias says the problem with using the AM in 24 is that if Newcastle does not win, you might have 6 teams playing doubles in 25 and no flexibility to play a wild card. Yeah, true. I mean, look, you make a good point there, and like I said, there's no one way of playing FPL. I just think it's the clear standout right now, and a lot of people will push towards this direction. A lot of casual managers will play the chip regardless. It's a new toy, you could say, and they want to try it out and see if they can get a lot of points, but I just think it's a really... The ceiling is so high with back-to-back double game weeks, and you're not going to get a better opportunity later in the season, in my opinion. Kanate to Dean for slot, or get Moyes and chase table bonus per plan. Yeah, both of them excellent choices. I'd probably lean towards Kanate to Dean and go for Arne's slot, but very, very close we're talking about. And if it hits involved, to go for Arne's slot, which probably isn't the case for you, by the way, but if that was the situation, then I think David Moyes is absolutely fine. It's really, really close. Hey Dylan, would you do Allison to Pickford, Bruno to Mbeumo to get slot for free? Yeah, and I did cover your question earlier in the stream, by the way. I would do it, yeah. Start 2 from Ahmad, Wood, Rodgers. I'd probably bench Ahmad there. Start Gordon or Rodgers. Close. I'd favour Rodgers. I think that Wolves fixture looks really appealing. He just scored a hat-trick, and with João Gomez suspended, it looks really promising. Terry says, is it worth taking out Van Dijk to have enough funds, then get slot, have 0.0 million in the bank anyway? Yeah, I think so. Now, Van Dijk is one of the best options in a double game week. His record is quite clear for all to see, but Arne Slot, possible back-to-back doubles with the AM chip, with the high ceiling there. Yeah, it looks really good. So yeah, that has been covered already, Surendra. It's not confirmed absolutely because it all depends on the Carabao Cup finals. Let's actually just go back to it so we can have a visual representation as well. So let me get this back up to... No, actually, let's fast forward this here. So yeah, if Liverpool reach the Carabao Cup final, they will blank in 29 and have that fixture brought forward to Game Week 25. Liverpool would face Wolves at home and Aston Villa away in Game Week 25. Whilst Villa have Ipswich Town and Liverpool at home. And if Arsenal reach the Carabao Cup final, Arsenal and Chelsea would double, with the Gunners facing Leicester City away, Chelsea at home, whilst Chelsea have Brighton away and Arsenal away. The next scenario includes Spurs. If they reach that final, they would face Man United at home and Fulham away, whilst Fulham have 2 home fixtures in Nottingham Forest and Spurs at home. Hopefully that's all clear. With Crystal Palace and Newcastle, if the Toon were to reach the final, they would not double in 25. They would likely double in Game Week 33, which has been covered already. I'll let this play out, by the way, this video. It breaks down all the chips and everything you need to know in detail. And actually, let me go back to this as well. Feel free to pause, of course. It breaks down all the doubles and blanks and everything you need to know ahead of that double. Have Trent, Salah and Gakpo worth transferring one out for slot or just play Moyes? I think it's worth transferring one out, and my preference would be selling Gakpo. Moyes is absolutely fine. It all depends on your predictions for the games. Are you backing Everton to cause an upset? If so, I think Moyes is a great play this week, but ultimately you might want to sell him in Game Week 25 to a manager that doubles. Elika says, I also just realised how lower placed managers can get more points. Yes, and it will be covered in a few seconds on screen as all the chips are being kind of broken down in detail. I also put a few snippets about the best time to use each chip. My current plan is to use the AM this week until Game Week 26, use the wild card around Game Week 30 to 32. The free hit would likely be deployed in blank Game Week 29 or 34. And as for the triple captaincy, I've used it already in Game Week 2, but for those that still have it, I think Game Week 33 or 36 would be a very good time to use it, especially if both game weeks are doubles, and the bigger double game week would be a great time to use it. I think the bench boost would be ideal, I think, for the bigger double game week. But on screen, I've just paused it now, you can see the table bonus and also the point scoring system for the assistant manager chip, which I have covered already in detail. But afterwards, you're going to see some examples of possible doubles for these managers. Of course, Slot and Moyes is locked in for Game Week 24, but from Game Week 25 onwards, they're all provisional, and it all depends on the Carabao Cup, who reaches the final, and their respective opponents in Game Week 29. And later in the season, of course, with the other doubles I show you, and other AM opportunities. That'll be for either Gameweek 33 or 36. That isn't penciled in just yet. So hopefully this has been very helpful to you. It has been a blast making the graphics and talking to all of you. It has been a lot of fun. And I think it does help not just you lot, but also myself to kind of make things very clear. But in the deadline stream tomorrow, I'll be covering more kind of usual FPL stuff. Maybe I'll show these graphics again very briefly, but it has been already delved into quite a lot. So yeah, that's all pretty decent. All right, I'll leave that up for a little while. Gakpo to Ndiaye for a -4 to get slot. I'd say yes. If Everton lose both games 1-0 in Gameweek 24, then Moyes would get 0. Yeah, so 0 points for a win, 0 points for what? Oh, sorry, for a win. Well done, Dylan. No, you get 0 points for a loss, of course. And if you don't score a goal, you're absolutely right. That's what I mean. And what you just said there, is it impossible? I don't think so. I think Everton are in a good place right now with David Moyes, but yeah, Leicester, obviously a massive win against Tottenham Hotspur. They could cause some problems, and then Liverpool, the best team in the league. So that's what I mean with David Moyes. He's got high ceiling, but it can also go horribly, horribly wrong. I'd rather use it on Arne slot if possible, but it's not clear-cut. Bacon says, I took a -4 for Gakpo, was on triple captain Salah. I'm close to selling Trent for slot. Yeah, I get that. I think the reasoning for selling Trent instead of Gakpo is you've got more alternatives in that defensive line, but I think both are viable. Sell Van Dijk or Gakpo for slot? It's a close one. I mean, if it's Trent, I'd be very much bullish on keeping him with a high ceiling. I'll be honest though, I'd actually lean towards selling Gakpo instead. So you've got Van Dijk to cover Liverpool defensively, you got Salah, he's Salah, and you're covering the attack, and you go for Arne slot. That might be the best balance actually. A defender, midfielder, and the manager. Umut says, I already got a -4 2 days ago from Wood to Gakpo, and now I have free Liverpool, got 0.4 million in the bank, and to get Moyes, I have to take another -4. Should I just transfer out Gakpo again to get slot? Right. So in either case, you need to take another hit. -8 hit overall. But the question is, do you sell Gakpo or somebody else to get David Moyes? I'd probably lean towards selling Gakpo and get slot. Not ideal, but that would be the way I'm looking at it. Mr. Iceman says, ownership for slot currently at 45%, and for Moyes 33%. So a lot of managers going for that upside and the high ceiling. Love to see it. Yeah, it's a really close debate as well. I have to say that. And I think it also is influenced by the fact a lot of people have a triple up in Liverpool already. It's not ideal to sell a Gakpo, Trent or Van Dijk in a double gameweek, but I appreciate the update because I think the ownership figures were lower for both of them. So a lot has changed during the duration of this stream. I almost called it a deadline. Start Sarr or Gordon? I'd go for Gordon. Bilal says, to fund slot AM, I can do Bruno to Mbumo and Gakpo to Vissa for a -4, or Van Dijk to Mikalenko and Gordon to Mbumo. Yeah, all good transfers. My preference would be Gakpo to Vissa and Bruno to Mbumo, the first set of moves you talked about. Is there any scenario in which triple Liverpool would outscore slot assistant manager? Yes, I mean, am I going to break down possible like scenarios and do the calculations now? Probably not, but there would be a scenario where that is the case. I just think with Arne slot, it's not just double Gameweek 24, it's 25, where yes, of course, all Liverpool players would have the double, but only a select few players will actually start both games. You know, who's to say that Cody Gakpo, you know, gets benched in one of those matches, especially with Diogo Jota back in the mix. I'm not saying you'll start straight away, but by double Gameweek 25, you'd expect Jota to get one start. I know Gakpo is the first choice left winger, but if Jota plays up front, you could see Diaz on the left and a bit of rotation happening there as well. But yeah, there is a possibility. I just don't think it's extremely likely. Yeah, Ashwin is asking the question we all care about. Yeah, I get that. Fair enough. It's just something we can't really fully predict. We can only give an honest opinion and you know, give our thoughts on it, but it's very rough and raw. Triple Captain Mo, I'd rather use the AM chip, to be honest, but if you're really bullish on using the triple captaincy, I think Salah is the best one. He is my #1 captain this week without a shadow of a doubt. The same goes for Gameweek 25. This is amazing, Dylan. Thanks. I appreciate that, Sonika, and hopefully this has been helpful to a lot of people watching. Like I said, if I haven't covered your question or comment, I probably will in the deadline stream tomorrow. In fact, I will do it since we cover hundreds and thousands of questions in these deadline streams. Gakpo to Ndai or Vissa to bring in Slot? I prefer Vissa long term. Shahi says, hey Dylan, would you do Allison to Pickford and Gordon to Kluivert for a -4 to fund Arne slot move? Was anyways reluctant to use triple captain this week. Yeah, I'd take the -4 hit, get Pickford and Kluivert, and go for Arne slot. You might also want to consider Rodgers, because if Liverpool reach the Carabao Cup final, both Liverpool and Villa will double next week, and with Rodgers you've got Wolves away, Ipswich Town at home, and Liverpool at home in the next 3 matches, so that could also work very well for you. Albeit long term, I think a Bournemouth midfielder might be even better. Yeah, no worries, Basuna. I get it. Just letting you know that I covered it earlier. Would you transfer out Gordon to Rodgers or Isak to Watkins? I wouldn't sell Isak to Watkins this week, but I could see myself making that switch next week, especially if Watkins stays at Aston Villa, which I think will be the case. I'd be very surprised if he were to leave the club now with the sale of the Ram. But yeah, Gordon to Rodgers looks better for me now. And then I do Isak to Watkins next week. I mean, you could argue they're both similar. You're selling a Newcastle player for a Villa one, but I'd rather keep Isak against Fulham. Thoughts on going for triple captain this week and AM next week? Yeah, I've been asked that a few times, and it's a viable strategy. I'd still rather use the AM chip now and get back-to-back doubles, really taking advantage of the most powerful booster in the game. How can Slot be 44% ownership when he only has 4,000 plus transfers in? I think it's in terms of the ownership figures of players who have activated the assistant manager chip, not the overall player base. What's the chances of LFC playing 5 games in 3 game weeks? Well, very high. It all depends on, do they reach the Carabao Cup final? They're 1-0 down against Tottenham. They're now going to Anfield. I think they'll make the comeback. So if you're asking me, it's very, very likely. I think I saw a stat where it's a 70% probability. I'd probably have it even higher, personally. Marco says Gakpo to Vissa and another transfer for a -8, or Gakpo to Ndai to a forward slot. Great question as well. Yeah, I'm kind of jealous of those that can go to Vissa. I honestly can't. Maybe in the future I will. I would probably... yeah, it's just another transfer to then get Vissa. I'd probably stick to Ndai for now, if it means a hit or 2 less, and then you can always buy Vissa in the future for free. Don't think Tottenham making the final with all the injuries. Yeah, and look, even with a fully fit squad, Liverpool are the better team and they're playing at Anfield. So, look, I'm not saying Tottenham have no chance, but it's very slim. Would you do Aina or Hall to Kirkes next week, or keep him, or do Greaves to Howson? Well, both... Sorry, Hall is going to blank in 29 most likely, unless Arsenal make a comeback in the Carabao Cup semi-finals. As for Aina, he will feature against Ipswich Town, but that's only one gaming to think about. If you've got a lot of value tied up in one of those defenders, I'd recommend keeping them. So if you bought Lewis Hall at 4.3, 4.4 million, I'd probably keep him if possible. But yeah, on the face of it, I think I'd rather keep Aina. Terry says, I meant, is it worth taking out Van Dijk for a -4 to have enough funds? I think I got the question, but yeah, I would do it. I think it's worth it. I like Van Dijk a lot, but I think Arne Slot is arguably the best Liverpool asset this week, even over Salah. Amazing effort to go live and answer in the chaos. Thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, a lot of the graphics and stuff I did overnight, and I had to make even more this morning after the announcement, but I wanted to get something out there because I know a lot of people in the comment section of my videos and the community tab, even Discord, have been asking some really good questions that need to be answered. So this stream and also tomorrow's deadline stream will help you know everything you need to for Double Gameweek 24 and 25. Bench Timber or Milenkovic? I'd bench Timber. With Gabriel, it's a little bit different because he's got that goal threat. With Timber, though, he's all right. I mean, look, he's a really good player, but from an FPL perspective, I'd be less keen on him. So Milenkovic for me. Kepa or Pickford? Pickford for me. If I'm buying a goalkeeper now, it's going to be Jordan Pickford. Yeah, exactly that, Tom. Yeah, that's been covered as well. So I think that's pretty much how it works. It wouldn't make sense otherwise. Got it, thanks. I already have Rodgers. Fair enough. Yeah, I think Kluivert would be the one then. Are you going to regret triple captain in Game Week 2? Not really, mate, because I got 17 points. I mean, I'm not trying to flex, but it's not like I triple captain Haaland in Game Week 6, where I have to say people were very unfortunate when he missed so many big chances against Southampton, got a goal inside 5 minutes, and really disappointed on that day. Yeah, I mean, look, if Salah ends up getting 20 plus points this week, then fair enough. And those that go there, really well done. But otherwise, I mean, I'm very happy with what I got, to be honest. Van de Ven is back, though, but that's one player. And even with Van der Ven and Romero in the side, it's not like Spurs were great defensively. Liverpool are the better team. I'm not saying Spurs have no chance because they did very well to keep a clean sheet with all their injuries against the best team in the league, but I'd still back Liverpool to win. It's just my projection and prediction. I might be wrong about it, but yeah, I don't think it makes too much of a difference personally. I got in Moyes with the AM chip as I didn't have enough in the bank and didn't want to sell any of my triple Liverpool assets. That's absolutely sound, and that's why I don't think there's a wrong way of playing it this week, but I would recommend either Slot or Moyes. Some people mention Amrim, for example. I wouldn't go there, but yeah, I'm going to think about it for the next couple of hours and then decide fully. Thank you, Basuno. Just want to say thanks for the hard work you're putting in. Really appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. It means a lot, and I'm glad that people have found some value in this stream. It's something a bit different to what I've usually done, and I could have done this as a video, but I thought it would be better as a interactive stream, and I answer even more questions, of course, in the deadlines, of course, because I'm going to stop saying the same thing. But yeah, I'm just trying to help as many people as possible, and myself, because it's a chaotic time in FPL. Why are people going for Brentford assets? Well, they've got good long-term fixtures, and going from Gakpo to Vissa, for example, would give you enough money to go for Arne Slot or David Moyes. That's the main reason why. People are looking to make these transfers anyway, so bringing these moves forward a week or two early to fund the AM chip makes a lot of sense. Got both of them at 4.3. Yes, really close, but I'd probably favour Aina in your setup. They both got difficult fixtures in the next couple of weeks anyway. Good to see you, Geotip. -8 to bring Slot in. I'd say yes, Andres, but who are you selling? That also determines whether it's fully worth it. AM or Moyes can potentially get 0 points on Gameweek 24. Yeah, that's what I mean. Really low floor, but a high ceiling. So you either get feast or famine, you go for broke, you go for the jugular, you get an extraordinary result, or you're just absolutely wasting the best chip in the game for at least 1 week. You can still switch, of course, and go to a Double Gameweek 25 doubler, so to speak. If this are difficult, because triple Brentford and not sure and die, who else? Maybe Jimenez if you're backing Spurs to double in 25 and Spurs and Fulham would face each other. But yeah, the options are quite slim. That's why I said this earlier. I can understand why a lot of people are looking to sell Van Dijk, Konate or Trent instead. But yeah, in terms of personnel and stuff, I'd still rather sell Gakpo. I think Vissa is the ideal one, and then Ndai would be next up. That's where I'd likely go myself. That's my route of funding Arne Slot or David Moyes myself. Yeah, Beatty says I'm bringing in Ndai. It makes a lot of sense. You've got a double game week player. He's in good form on penalties. Yeah. Ange says that he always wins a trophy in a second season. Yeah, but I mean, a lot of managers say things and it doesn't come to fruition, you know. But look, he's got opportunities. He's in the FA Cup still, in the Europa League. But going to Anfield with a 1-0 lead with their injury situations and the way both clubs are, one's 15th, the other one is flying in Europe and also in the Prem. It's going to be very difficult. Start Aina or Gabriel? I'd probably favour Gabriel simply for the attacking threat. If you said any other Arsenal defender, I think I'd lean towards Aina, but yeah, it's going to be Gabriel for me. Really close though. I might have a different opinion tomorrow. Yeah, City are going to be a difficult one for Arsenal. Gordon to Clover? Yeah, good transfer. If that's your way of funding your AM chip, that's absolutely reasonable. Also consider Rodgers if you're backing Liverpool to double in 25 for the reasons described before. Start Timber or Greaves? I'd go for Greaves. I don't think either team will keep a clean sheet, but you're kind of just hoping for the best there with that kind of easy opponent on paper in Southampton. But I've actually gone for 2-1 Arsenal at the moment. That might change to 1-1. And I've gone for 3-2 Ipswich Town. Yeah, the 4 predictions will be discussed tomorrow. With the graphics, of course, too. Now I wish I didn't go early with Kluivert and Mikolenko transfers, but it is what it is. Yeah. I was also thinking, I should have gone early because I missed the price rises for Pickford and Mikolenko. My original plans were to bring both of them in for a -4 hit, but that's suddenly out of the window, actually. Oh, Jesus. Hopefully everything's fine. I just had like a bit of a black screen on my external monitor. Like I said, I'm using a different computer and stuff like that with this stream. It's a bit experimental. But yeah, if there's any issues or if it's running smoothly, let me know. I greatly appreciate the feedback. Moyes could either get 25 points or like 5. Yeah, exactly that. Maybe even 30 plus, depending on how the results go. If he wins both matches, keeps a clean sheet. If you play the AM chip and don't change manager, is the table bonus locked in from game week 1, or does the table bonus change week on week? Great question. It changes week on week. Let me show you actually, because I've got it here. Let's see. So yeah, this one. This is the breakdown of the AM chip. Just to go through it one more time. Like I said, you can rewind to the beginning of the stream where I broke down everything you need to know about chips and also double gimmick opportunities. So the point we want to kind of hone in on is, I think in the second slide actually. Yes, it's in the next slide. So let me just get that up now. So here, if your chosen manager faces a club ranked at least 5 places higher in the Premier League table, you get extra points for a win or a draw. If the manager qualifies for the table bonus at the start of the game week, they will remain eligible throughout the entire game week we're talking about. But what you're asking, yes, you're right. It changes on a weekly basis between each match day. So hopefully that is very clear. -4, Gordon to Diaz and DCL to Gakpo. Oh, I'm surprised by that. Buying Liverpool players and not going for Arne Slot, fair enough. I think, yes, good transfers overall, but I'd consider keeping Gordon. And if you've got enough money, go for David Moyes or Arne Slot as your assistant manager. I think one of those moves is good. I wouldn't make both of them. Yeah, Rania, as I mentioned before, it's because the likes of Vissa, for example, have good long-term fixtures. Even Tottenham at home looks promising. And the fact that it allows you to have enough money in the bank to go for Arne Slot or David Moyes, it just makes a lot of sense to do something like Gakpo down to Vissa and then go for Arne Slot, for example. Hi, Dylan. Pickford, Mikalenko, Slot -4, or Alisson, Robinson, Moyes. I like both of them a lot, but I prefer Pickford, Mikalenko, and Arne Slot. If it takes too many hits to get Slot, should I not activate triple captain this week and do it next week? So yeah, I think if it's too many hits, I would either consider going for David Moyes instead or saving for 25, maybe even later in the season in your case. But I think in some cases, the assistant manager chip can justify massive hits like a -8 or -12, but I would be careful about it. I think you're right to kind of highlight that. But I think, yeah, with triple captaincy as well, you could use that instead and then use the AM later in the season, but you can't use both at the same time. And if you use the AM now, you can't use the triple captaincy in that free game week period when the AM is active. Thank you very much, Luis Bonilla. Very much appreciated. Geotip says -8, Gordon to Kluivert, DCL to Gakpo, and Gabriel to Tarkovsky. Not entirely sure about that. I mean, they're good transfers in, but I would consider keeping one of Gordon or Gabriel, especially the latter, who could still double in 25, although that's probably going to be quite unlikely. I can afford anyone, don't need to stress about cash, just isn't Dye worth it even for the double, playing Rodgers and Kluivert probably better? I think this week Dye looks better than Kluivert at least, but that could age horribly wrong, of course. I get your reluctance to sign Dye. I'm also not a big fan. It's really just a Double Gameweek 24 punt, and in my case to fund other moves, especially the biggest chip of them all. But yeah, for me, Viss is the best one, if you can afford him. I mean, you said you can. Can't get Vissa next week because we'll have triple Dam, Vladimarson, and Van den Berg. Yeah, I've also got a triple up and I'm gutted about it. I really am. Danny says, Dylan, I've got no idea what to do now. I used my 2 transfers yesterday. Now I've tripped up on Liverpool and Everton. Trent, Salah, Gakpo, Pickford, Mikalenko, and Dye. What should I do with chips? 2.8 million in the bank for the future. Yeah, no worries. 2 days ago, I got that. I appreciate the question. So, you're in a good position still. Triple Liverpool. You've got Everton. So, in your case, you've got Pickford, Mikalenko, and Dye. I think what I'd consider is selling Gakpo to Vissa and go for Arne Slot as your assistant manager. That would only be for a -4 hit. So, if we go back to this one, actually, it's already on screen here. Your first selection for the AM chip won't use a free transfer. Any subsequent changes will. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty simple solution for your squad. I think that's what I'd end up doing. Gakpo out to Vissa, who is a good long-term striker for you, and he's cheap. And you can then go for Arne Slot as your assistant manager. The rest of your squad looks very good. I mean, at least your Liverpool and Everton structure. I think that's what I'd do. Start Munoz or Robinson. It's a close one. Very, very close. I would favour Robinson slightly. Munoz against United, yeah. It's a very, very close call. I think I'd favour Munoz, actually. But I've currently gone for 2-1 Newcastle against Fulham and 1-1 between Manchester United and Crystal Palace. That could go either way. Would you get out Gakpo or Trent to get Slot? Probably Gakpo, especially if you can go to Vissa. I can't recommend that highly enough. Indai is a decent shout for the double too. Andreas says Konate, Kirkes plus Moyes to Slot -8. Oh, so Konate to Kirkes. Yeah, sorry, I didn't fully understand your question. Because I definitely wouldn't recommend doing Moyes to Slot and take a hit because you've locked in your manager and now you want to change it. Just settle with what you've gone for. Be very clear about what you want to do. But yeah, Konate to Kirkes, I like that move long term. Munoz to Howson as second transfer to -8 to afford Vissa and Slot. Howson's a nice budget option and he helps you navigate so many doubles and blanks seamlessly. So yeah, doesn't look great for this week, but long term, that's a great acquisition. I'd do it. Rodgers or Kluivert? I mean, I still prefer Kluivert, but with Rodgers, for the short term, I think the next 2 weeks looks really good because it could be a double with Liverpool included, but it's at home, and you've also got Ipswich Town, and it's Wolves away this week, but it's going to be Kluivert for me still. Gakpo to Ndai and get Slot? Yeah. The cheapest playing goalkeeper, Areola at 4.2 million. The other one is Dubravka, but Nick Pope was back in the squad against Southampton. All right, I'm going to ask a few more questions and then wrap things up because I have been streaming for over 2 hours and there is going to be a deadline stream tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you want a question answered that hasn't been covered already, leave it in the comment section of this video. Join the Discord server. Talk to me on there. The same goes for my X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And like I said, the deadline stream is even more interactive. Of course, at the beginning of this video, I was covering all the details of the chips, especially this one, the biggest of the lot. And let's actually leave it on the point segment for a little while longer before wrapping things up. So Ezra says, -8, Alisson to Pickford, Gordon to Rodgers to avoid Slot. Would you do it? Yes. Jenny B says, Van Dijk to Milenkovic to fund Slot for a -4. And let me actually go back to my team. Let's make it easier to track the highlighted messages and stuff. So let me just get that up again. So Jenny says, yeah, I would do it, yeah. Now, would I go for Milenkovic necessarily? I'm not so sure. Good fixture in Game Week 29 in a blank where that allows you to navigate it without the free hit. But could you also not just go for Kirkes long term, which would be a very solid move? I'd rather go for Kirkes or Howson at this moment in time. So Nika says, hey Dylan, need a 4.3 million defender to get Slot. Any recommendations? I'll try to think of something, but I can't guarantee it. With Everton, unfortunately, Mikalenko is now 4.4. So let's see if I can think of someone quickly in this bracket. Mezraoui, not a big fan, but that could be something to look at. Lewis Dunk, dare I say. I think Joachim Andersen could still work fairly well for you. And he might double in Game Week 25, although you need Spurs to reach the final over Liverpool. So at the moment, my kind of raw take would be either Joachim Andersen, I think, or Mezraoui. Dare I say Mezraoui? Not a big fan, but yeah, I think that's what I'd look at. Dunk isn't too shabby either. Not my favourite though. Dooney says, I've got free Liverpool and free Villa with no transfers. Do I go for Slot and remove Konate? Yeah. But you can go for David Moyes too and have extra Everton assets that way. That could also work very, very well in your favour. It just feels so wrong taking a double gimmick player and irrespective of who it is for, including an AM. I get that. I'm a bit uneasy about it myself, but I just think Arne Slot has a high ceiling. You've got back-to-back doubles potentially, which is what I'm projecting. So it makes sense either way. Yeah, see you tomorrow, Beardy. I mean, who to start this week, Kluivert or Rodgers, thanks? Rodgers. Yeah, I prefer Rodgers this week and the next, especially if Aston Villa double in 25. Otherwise, it's probably close and you might lean towards Kluivert, but for this week, it's going to be Morgan. Gakpo pending a price rise, would sell Saturday if selling. Yeah, that is a good point. I might lock in my transfers tomorrow, which is going to be far from ideal. Easy99 says, before Double Gameweek 25 was announced, Bournemouth assets is popular. Now with 25 being announced, another asset with Double Gameweek will be considered. What a chaos that is. That's FPL for you in a nutshell. This is one of the biggest announcements we've had in a long time. I mean, you might ask me tomorrow, is it the biggest ever? It's up there, for sure. Is James Justin fit? I think he is. I'm going to double check that for you. He is available, but I believe he is actually... Did he not feature in the last game? I'm going to double check that, but yeah, I think Justin is available. Yeah, he's played the last four games, actually. In fact, he's played longer than that. He's been available all season. Yeah, Justin is fine, unless I'm missing a piece of information from today's press conferences. I'll talk more about injuries and stuff in tomorrow's deadline, but yeah, Justin is fit. Another one to consider for 4.3 million and below. Isaac says, I've got Gakpo and Salah, but no Trent. What do you think of the AM chip instead of Trent? As much as I like Trent, I'd rather prioritize the AM chip. My free transfer can be Pickford. Depends who you're selling in goal, but yeah, AM chip all day for me. Thank you, Jenny. Good to see you as well. And Sonika, thank you, Dooney. Konate to Kirkes and Moy slot could save transfer for Blank 29. Right. Yeah, I think I covered that before though, so hopefully that did answer your question. Mr. Iceman says, just did Sanchez dunk, Diaz to Pickford, Mikolenko and Semenyo, ready for a slot masterclass, in trouble for the double next week with only 2 free transfers and 0.5 million in the bank. I'm in an even worse day. I've got 1 free transfer. I'll probably take hits every single week, it looks like, for the foreseeable future. Joao Pedro to 4.5 million forward and get in Moyes. I have to use a -4. Yeah, would be my answer. I don't think Joao Pedro is a great asset long-term anyway. He might start returning in the difficult fixtures, but yeah. It also allows you to just focus your funds in the starting 11 and have minimal benching dilemmas, which isn't always the best thing, but I would take the hit. I can afford anyone, don't need to stress about cash. Yeah, I did cover it, Twister Parky. So basically, I would recommend Vissa. Of course, in your case, you can't get to that. The alternatives will be Raul Jimenez, for example, but I'd favour Ndiaye in that case. It's not ideal, but it could work for Game Week 24 against Leicester. Yep, see you tomorrow as well, The Goat. Good to see you. Our FA Cup final after the season finish? No, it would be before. Around Game Week 37, actually. Thoughts on double Bournemouth midfield? If so, which two? Kluivert would be number 1 for sure, with the penalties. And I would favour Semenyo, but Dango Ouattara playing out of position as a striker until Evanilson's back, which is probably around March, looks very enticing. And he's also cheaper, so it looks really good. But yeah, Kluivert for sure. And I'd probably favour Semenyo at the moment, but that could easily change. So yeah, Konate to Kirkes and Moyes to slot. Like I said, I don't like making managerial changes. So if you've already bought in Moyes, just stick with him at this moment in time, to be honest. And that's why I've said all along, if you are looking to use the AM chip, have it absolutely locked in what you want to do and then pick your manager, because you don't want to just take a hit unnecessarily. But if you're asking me if you should take that -8, I'd probably stick with what you have. Thank you, Mohammed. Thanks for your videos and stream, man. Hope to see you tomorrow. Likewise. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. The Carabao Cup final takes place in Game Week 29, which is why I've mentioned it so many times in this video. And those fixtures that are being brought forward to Game Week 25 are as a result of the Game Week 29 blank, which is one of the biggest blanks of the season. I guess I can get Ndiaye and hope maybe get another double next week. Really wanted Wissa. Damsgaard, is that? And Valdimarsson? There's also Mbuma, of course, who's very enticing. I'm not sure if you got him. I'm guessing you don't, based on what you said. But yeah, we will get a double next week. It's just who is going to double. Average at FPL says, hear me out. Already taken a -4 to get Gakpo in earlier this week. Plan was to use triple captain. Heavily opposed to taking another hit to use AM chip on slot. Feels a bit weird to take a -8 for a double game week player. I completely get that. And I don't think there's one right way of playing it. The thing is, you could still go for David Moyes, though. And that doesn't take a hit to make that happen. Marco says, is a -8 now, but 2 transfers that will help me navigate 29, 2 transfers less that week and could save up to 4 transfers. Yeah, and I'll be honest, with the AM booster being so popular this week and so powerful in my opinion, I think it's a decent time to take hits. And for those with free transfers, you're in a great position. Thoughts on double Bournemouth midfield? If so, which two? Yeah, that's been covered already, sorry. Payman says, hi Dylan, I have Trent, Salah and Gakpo and Pickford free in the bank and no transfers. Gakpo to Ndai and Slot or Hall to Mikolenko and Moyes. I'd favour Gakpo to Ndai and Slot, but they're both excellent choices and we'll talk more about this tomorrow. Will the only double in 33 be Newcastle? It's possible, but I think it's more likely we'll see more double game weeks, and that will likely be based on the blankers in game week 34 because of the FA Cup semi-finals. So I think it's more likely we'll get 6 to 8 doubles in 33, possibly even 10, but that isn't locked in. With Dominic out, Ndai will more move players forward rather than play left wing. Yeah, with Calvert-Lewin out, that is true. For a second, I thought we were talking about Solanke, but yeah, that is true. We'll wait and see if that's a great thing for him. And ultimately with Ndai, it's just a means to an end to get Arne Slot or David Moyes. Yeah, I think, David, I did cover your question earlier, Twister Parky, as well. Ndai should be fit. ¿Estás usando Triple Captain? Ya lo usé en la jornada 2. Mi plan es usar el Assistant Manager. Yo expliqué todo en este video. Así que si hablas inglés va a estar todo muy claro ahí. Adam Wales says bench boost of 6 double gameweek players. Yeah, I mean, are you talking about using it now? I'd still rather use the AM chip, but that is actually another thing that I didn't mention. The bench boost could be used in game week 25 if you aren't using the AM booster, the assistant manager, in either game week 24 or 25. I think a lot of people will have a strong bench next week. Surely game week 33 is better week to use triple captain. I did mention the best time to use all the chips before. So I'll try not to tread on or go over treaded ground too much here, but yeah, triple captain in 33 or 36 looks really enticing, and use the bench boost in the other double. There is the possibility that game week 36 isn't a double in the end, but that is all kind of relative and nothing's locked in right now. I already did it. Hopefully a -8 worth it long term. Good luck, Ezra. Could Liverpool have a double game week in 33? Yes, or 36. Yeah, that is the possibility. That has covered. It was covered earlier, so just rewind the stream and you can see all the graphics and possible doubles there. Is there not a possibility Beto starts Ndai bench or left wing? I'd be shocked if Ndai was benched. I just don't see that happening. -4, Gordon to Obatara and DCL to Gakpo. Yeah, I like those moves, but once again, I'd be favouring Arne Slot or David Moyes and using the AM chip over Gakpo right now. Things have changed a lot today. Who would Liverpool play in 25 if it happens? They'd face Wolves at home, which is already a fixture, and they'd face Aston Villa away. Not the best double, but to have Bournemouth away, Everton away, Wolves at home, and Aston Villa away, having back-to-back doubles, and then you've got Man City away where you could switch Arne Slot out by that point. It just looks really strong, and you save a transfer with your AM chip as well. Surianch says Gakpo to Ndai for free to get Slot, or Wood to Visser and get Moyes. Which path should I choose? They're all excellent choices. I don't think there's a clear-cut strategy that's better. It's ultimately about what you think about what's going to happen in Game Week 24, your predictions, and then hoping for the best there. My preference is to get Slot and Ndai. All of them are absolutely reasonable. -8 for Szoboszlai and Kluivert. I wouldn't be buying Szoboszlai. If anything, I'd sell him to then get Arne Slot. I would not be buying Szoboszlai right now. Is Game Week 27 a good time to buy Foden and Gvardiol? Surprising about that? Possibly, especially in the case of Foden, who has shown a lot of form recently across all competitions, and he had his best ever goal-scoring streak in the Premier League very recently. Yeah, Valdimarsson, the keeper, stopping me. Same here. I wish I could go for Visser. I'd just go for that sort of route now. Sell Gakpo to Visser. Maybe buy Mikolenko if I want. It's kind of a luxury, you could say, in the back. And then go for Arne Slot. But unfortunately, it means another hit. Mosin says, I've already taken a -4 to bring Gakpo in some days ago. Will it be a good idea to take another? So a -8 to take Gakpo and Gvardiol out and bring Visser, Tarkowski, Mikolenko and Slot in. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of massive hits, but I think it does work in your case. Yeah. So a lot of these questions have been answered already. Cheers, Isaac, as well. We'll cover the last few here. If Liverpool win both games, score 3 goals in both matches, and get 1 clean sheet as well, Slot ends up on 20 points in 24. Whereas if Salah gets even 10 points in 24, I get 30 points via triple captain and AM in 25. The thing is with the triple captain, though, if you weren't going to use that chip this week, the triple captain, you'd still captain Salah, wouldn't you? And you get double the points. So you're not gaining 20 points, you're gaining 10 points if Salah were to get 10. I get what you're saying, you make a good point, but the triple captain is you're gaining over the captaincy in general, and you can't think of it that way where you gain 20 points instead of the 10 that you would get. Everton win, clean sheet versus Liverpool's defence feels too naive to expect and too good to be true. I'm so confused. All this makes FPL very difficult to navigate for people who play the game just for fun. Yeah, it's a complicated chip. When you're explaining it to people for the first time, especially newcomers, it can be a nightmare, especially for the new players, of course. I mean, I'm kind of well versed in it now, but when it first came out, I was like, what the hell is going on? But it should make things interesting, especially now. But you could argue it kind of tunnels people into a certain chip strategy, especially with all the chips available. I think the game is kind of fall under place there. ¿Cuál opción crees que sería mejor? ¿Vender Gakpo o Trent? -4 para jugar Assistant Manager o Asistente, Slot o Triple Captain Salah. Yo prefiero vender a Gakpo y ir por Slot como tu asistente. También está, no me molesta la idea de David Moyes, pero Arne Slot puede tener 2 dobles en la jornada 24 y 25. Greg says Dylan selling Gakpo for Ndai or Trent for Kirkes and using Kirkes in Game Week 25. I have already Pickford, Mikolenko and Vissa. I like that Kirkes move long term. That is a really, really good question. I might favour Trent to Kirkes here. I'm not a big fan of selling Trent in a double game week. I have to say that. I'd rather sell Gakpo now, but when you're looking at the replacement, I'm really bullish on Kirkes as well. On the face of it, I'd go for that Kirkes option, but selling Trent is always very difficult. Already activated my wildcard. Any advice? Yeah, so with that booster already enabled, I would try to have players from those kind of 6 potential doublers in 25. So you're looking at Liverpool, Aston Villa, maybe cover all bases there, Tottenham, Fulham. And maybe what you do is you kind of have your opinion. Who reaches the Carabao Cup final? The most likely, in my opinion, are Liverpool and Newcastle. But remember, with Newcastle and Palace, they won't double in 25. They will double later in the season. But essentially what you'd want to do there is go for Liverpool players, of course, a double or triple up. You can't use the assistant manager chip on a slot just yet. But if you still want to use it in 25, maybe you leave that spot open from Liverpool. But I would be looking at those possible doubles in 25 and also have in mind Game Week 29 and see how you can navigate it there. If you've got the free hit, it's not too much of a worry, but it's something worth taking into account. Keep Gordon or Gabriel. Long term, I'd rather keep Gabriel. Our UCL, UEL and Conference League final fixtures featuring England teams will happen after the season final or last week of the season. It will be after the season. It's just the FA Cup final, which takes place before Game Week 38. Fair enough, John Laws. I mean, you can play the game the way you want, and everyone's got their own opinions. I wouldn't bring in Szoboszlai for a hit. Personally, I'd rather just buy Arne Slot, even the likes of Gakpo, Trent, Salah, etc. I think they're bigger priorities. Per Ben Krellin, Game Week 33 should be 1 to 3 doubles and Game Week 36 1 to 4. Yeah, like I said, that's not clear cut at the moment, and that's why when I talked about those provisional doubles there, I mentioned either Game Week 33 or 36. We don't know for sure yet, but I definitely listened to Ben Krellin first over what I'm saying. I've kind of taken the information from a whole list of sources there. I'm so glad that didn't make all 3 transfers, would have been worse. Gakpo whilst out is still fine. I got 16 points. Yeah, I think that makes it a bit easier to sell him from one perspective. I mean, selling a player who just got 16 points seems wild, doesn't it? But at least he got you something. You made profit on the transfer, and now you can make even more potentially with Arne Slot. Thank you, Free Ronin. Good to see you, and we can talk even more tomorrow. And thank you to those that have tuned in today. It has been a longer stream than expected. A lot of you have tuned in. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new. And there will be a deadline stream tomorrow. If you don't want to miss that or any FPL/UCL fantasy content, then hit that notification bell so you're always up to date. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky by typing Dylan RCM or FPL Dylan. Join the Discord server, FPL League. Check out Drafthound as well as Spotify. And if you want to support the channel even further, it's patreon.com/DylanRCM. There's also the channel memberships by clicking the join button on YouTube. Mr. Parky says, I was also thinking triple Bournemouth next week. We'll have to settle for Kluivert and Howson. I think 2 is fine though. You don't need 3, but yeah, I think I don't actually mind a triple up in Bournemouth, which sounds crazy, but with all the doubles in 24 and 25, there are other ways and other teams to cover. So it's really, really interesting. For Moyes owners, who is the best switch in Game Week 25? Iraola, Ange, Silva, if Spurs go through, or Emery? I'd favour Ange Postecoglou over Marco Silva, but of course a lot depends on table bonus, and the Premier League table will shift from one game week to the other, and that of course was covered in detail about, you know, how that happens in terms of the AM chip and the way it works. But yeah, if Liverpool and Aston Villa double in 25, I think Emery's a decent shout, and that would be a decent switch there from David Moyes. But yeah, Iraola, I was actually going to highlight him as a single game week option to consider from game week 24, actually, but now I'd just be prioritising the doublers, and in this case, Ange Postecoglou. FPL should introduce Asman at early season, then FPL managers can rethink how to use from early season. Well, maybe next campaign they will. We don't know that for sure yet, of course. Thank you, Snickerboa. Thank you, Twisted Parky. Also, John Laws, who's made some good points in this chat. Yeah, Szoboszlai got 13 points. That is true. It's just with Szoboszlai, you also get a lot of blanks. When he does score, he can get a lot of bonus points, but I'd rather go for the other players I mentioned. And Arne Slot just has such a high ceiling with back-to-back doubles potentially, and the AM chip is so powerful. I can't stress that enough. I wouldn't bring in Szoboszlai personally, mate. Now, if you're bullish on him, back your gut, but I think the priority should be Arne Slot there, mate. Triple Liverpool, Gakpo, Salah and Trent, 0.7 million in the bank. Used -4 already prior to the announcement. Any suggestions? David Moyes as your assistant manager now. Even if it doesn't work out this week, you can switch him to a team that doubles in 25 and still have a very high ceiling for those future weeks. Hey, Gakpo to Ndiaye and Slot AM or triple captain Salah? I'd go for Slot AM and buy Ndiaye for Gakpo. Yeah, see you tomorrow, Cyril. Moise Asman locked in ride or die. I wish you the best of luck there. Triple Liverpool, Gakpo, Salah and Trent. Yeah, I did cover that just now, mate. Ahmed says, need to sell Kanate to free up a place for Slot. Have 1.5 million in the bank. Long term, I recommend Kirkes. Not a good move this week against Liverpool, you could say, but I think a Bournemouth defender like Kirkes or Howson looks really enticing, and it helps you navigate future doubles and blanks seamlessly. Patrick says, Vissa and Slot -4. I'm selling Gakpo. I want Slot because if they pass Tottenham, I don't have to change the coach and focus on transfers like midfield, Bournemouth, Watkins for a double. Yeah, I talked about that briefly as well in my transfer plan section. That's why I might consider going for Arne Slot myself. Why did I have to do this on tax return day? Yeah, just adding more. Yeah, that's actually a good point. It's just adding more stress and, I don't know, curveballs, you could say. A spanner has been thrown in the works of FPL, that's for sure. But thank you to Steparky, Genius Gamer, and everyone else who has tuned in to this very kind of weird and unique stream, you could say. But there is going to be the deadline tomorrow. Stay tuned for that and all the FPL and Use Your Fantasy content. We did get the Champions League draw, by the way. Man City facing Real Madrid yet again. That will be covered in my Use Your Fantasy content. I wish you all the best of luck for Double Game Week 24 and the rest of the season. The same goes for your chip strategies, which was covered in detail, of course, across this stream. And I'll see you very soon for more FPL and Use Your Fantasy content. Take care.